that it's 7 p.m. on March 6, 2024. I will call the Board of Health meeting to order, and since it's a virtual meeting, the board members will just announce that they're present. Daryl Beardsley present.
Julie Dreyfus present.
Diana Hook present.
Okay, so we have the 2 variance hearings scheduled, and then just a number of business items to take care of, various permits and the like, including continuation of the farm roads and Washington Street homes discussions. So before we do that, we have the opportunity to update the agenda with several items that were not reasonably anticipated by the chair 48 hours in advance of the meeting, and we can vote whether to amend the agenda. So one is that we have 33 North Main Street, which was Heritage, is now to be called the Fireside, has had a Title V inspection, and that's up for discussion. And then there's a possible food establishment permit for One Bite Suite. Does anyone have anything else that they're aware of that's urgent to be added? Okay. Do we have a motion to add these 2 items to the agenda this evening?
So moved.
Seconded.
Excuse me, Daryl.
Yes.
Daryl, you don't have the most current agenda, the ZBA petitions. We're number 3.
Oh, okay, thank you. You know, I downloaded this twice, and this is, did I goof?
There was a second update.
Okay. All right, then before we vote, sorry, and I think my computer is struggling again. There's also ZBA petitions that for their next meeting that will be before our next meeting.
Right.
So
It's March 12th. March 12th.
So we have 3 items. So we'll strike the prior motion. Do we have a new motion for the 3 items to be added? Thank you, Ellen. We're going to miss this.
So moved.
Seconded.
Okay, any other discussion? Hearing none.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Diana Hook, aye.
And Daryl Beardsley, aye. All right, so Mark, I don't know if you were able to track who came on that. I do believe there was, who was the first person?
I saw Stacy Scott as well as whatever her last name is now, and I saw Dawn Garand or Garin. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. Both your names improperly. So one is Stacy's here, and it probably could be others to listen in on the 33 North Main Street Heritage Fireside facility.
Okay.
And Dawn is here to discuss 82, is it 82? 82 hunting.
86 hunting link?
86. Yeah, I covered over my agenda. I apologize. 86, yes.
Okay. Do either of you remember who was in first? I think it was Dawn, but I'm not positive.
I'm sorry, I was not watching the sequence.
Yeah.
So
We have multiple people for 33 North Main, which I believe we might.
okay,
Perhaps we take that one first.
that's fine by me.
Okay. If you would like to introduce that, that would be great.
Sure. There has been a change of ownership at 33 North Main Street, which we know as the Heritage. It's now going to be called the Fireside. And they produced a Title V inspection this past week. Unfortunately, I believe they passed papers before the Title V was completed, but we advised them to make sure a Title V inspection was completed. We do now have that. That was completed by Stacy of Scott Septic Incorporated. And also there has been discussion as of today as it relates to the public water supply. So the Title V inspection, Stacy's here to explain her inspection. There were she did review it with a camera, so if the board so wishes, I'll let Stacy explain the process she used to complete the Title V inspection.
I would appreciate that.
Okay, Stacy.
Hi, everybody. So I did my Title V inspection last week. I opened the tank and the grease trap, the pump chamber, as well as the 3 distribution boxes. And I found everything to be in working order. The only thing that needs to be done is that they need to replace the distribution boxes.
And could you tell what the problem was with the distribution boxes?
They're just very deteriorated and starting to crumble and fall apart. So they need to be replaced so that they are replaced with ones that are more watertight. They're going to be used like a flex seal on them. That way they can withstand the methane gas a little better, a little sturdier. So,
Okay,
We may
So-
want to share the Title V inspection. There were, during the inspection, it shows the tank and the grease tank had not been serviced as they should have been. So I don't know if the Title V inspection's available to share.
yes, let me work on that.
While she's drawing that up, Stacy, you're welcome to just go over what you found at both the septic tank and the pump chamber, as well as the grease tank.
so the grease trap was found to be pretty thick, pretty solid, because it has been a while since it was pumped. And the septic tank also had a lot of grease in it, but we had both of those tanks were pumped this week. We're going to go back and kind of pump them again either tomorrow or Friday. We have to do it again to get the rest of it out. So, but when I opened the pump chamber, there really was not that much grease in the pump chamber. And I do believe that the filter in the tank is what helped that out, because the Zabel filter is a very large Zabel filter in the septic tank. So that keeps a lot of the stuff in the tank. So, and then when I opened the distribution boxes, I cameraed the lines to make sure everything was working correctly and there wasn't a lot of grease out there. And I did find some grease, but it's very minimal. So I find it everything to be functioning properly. I ran the pumps. I watched the water go down the lines. I watched everything for as long as the pumps would run with the amount of water that was in the tank. And everything was working appropriately. So just got to
So-
replace those D-boxes.
Yeah, no, that's important, Stacy. I'm glad you brought that up. And the units that they have out here are Caltex, correct? They're chambers for the leaching units.
Half of them. So there's 7 lines on one side that are Cultec units, and then there's 7 lines on the other side that are stone trenches.
Okay.
That's what they are, because that's the original system is on one side, and then we
Yes.
put this one in 03.
Yes. Okay.
Mhm.
So with that noted, and you cameraed both the leaching lines as well as the Caltech chambers.
It was
Thank
a
you.
lot of lines.
And I appreciate you bringing up the fact the effluent filter was there because unfortunately the previous owner or owners, I'll say, did not service the grease tank as they are required to by Title V requirements. And the reason I brought this to the Board of Health meeting is I would like to make sure that when we issue any food permits for this facility, that it be conditioned to meeting the requirements of Title V, which says you shall inspect the external grease tank once a month, and if needed, pumped, and every 3 months, no matter what, it needs to be pumped. So I will be asking the board to do that based on what you found from, unfortunately, not servicing the system in past year or years.
Yes.
Thank you, Stacy. I
Yeah,
don't.
I say that's a good idea.
You,
It
yeah,
would
I
be
don't know
good
what
to,
the chair.
oh, I was gonna say, to let the new owners know that the last septic replacement, which was costly, was prompted by lack of maintenance of the grease management system, so.
Yeah, I spoke in depth with Laura, and she's very aware and on board with all of the maintenance and doing things correctly. I'm feeling very positive about our new fireside in Sherborn.
Great, thank you.
And I don't know if the owner's here, Stacy. I
Mhm.
see there's a Laura here, but I'm not for
Yep,
sure.
that's her.
Okay, Laura, are you with, do you have any questions? If you don't mind me asking, Daryl?
No,
Also, my co-owner Mark Williams is also on the call, so I just wanted that you guys were co-owners. So we're both on board to make sure that we get to the regular schedule, and adhere to all the regular. We don't want to find ourselves in a situation where we have to do a replacement.
Excellent.
okay. Good.
Daryl, just a point of order. I am losing communications off and on, so I think I'm going to stay off my screen and just stay on my microphone because I'm getting broken up communication. But I heard the end of that discussion by Laura. Thank you.
Okay, yes, I'm having similar issues. Okay, so for the moment, is there anything that the board needs to do? Like, is
Yes.
there something that has to happen between now and our next meeting that we need to give you some guidance on?
I believe you do, and that is that I expect the owner plans to do some renovations. Unfortunately, I just heard this morning there was also a fire at the facility that caused smoke damage. So as building permits come in, I would ask the board if you could allow me to issue those permits conditional to, and I spoke to the building commissioner about this, conditional to no occupancy or a food permit until the distribution boxes have been replaced and conditions are added to the food permit in respect to the proper maintenance of the grease tank, external grease tank. The other note I just want to make is that the public water supply needs to be transferred, and it may have been. And the owner has communicated with me as of this afternoon, just recently, that she is going to look into it. So we appreciate that, and hopefully if it wasn't done or wasn't done according to requirements, that she work with the state and we can help her get to the right people at the state if she can't reach them. But she is working with Whitewater. They're a water testing company. And I expect,
And
they
there's
will guide her.
operators as well
Yes.
for wastewater management.
May I ask something quickly? This is Robbins.
Yes, please do.
Yes, we are going to be getting the proof of the public water transfer. The old owners had said they did it, but I don't have it in, I have a text from them that said they did it. So we're going to follow up and get something in writing. And then a question for you. So just a clarification, there was no damage to the fire. It was a very small contained smoke problem in a vanity. So that was it. It's solved, no major issue, thank goodness. No actual flames, so that was wonderful. And then secondly, in terms of the D box replacement, correct me if I'm wrong, we will be planning on replacing it as soon as Scott's Septic can do it. However, I think the law is that we technically have 2 years to replace it. Is that correct? That's my understanding.
You have a conditional Title V inspection, and the condition is that the distribution boxes, all 3 of them, have to be replaced. So that's where that requirement comes through. So your Title V inspection report won't be valid until we get a certificate issued for those distribution box replacements.
I don't know. I'm not trying to fight with you. I just don't actually think that that's actually the law. I think that no building permit or food permit should be held up tied to D-box replacement.
We actually practice, and we probably could find it in our local regulations, that if there's a pending permit, or in this case, pending Title V inspection, no permits issued unless it's conditioned to the repair. That has been the requirement for all building applications. As it relates to the food permit, that is also a permit the board would not issue if there was a pending Title V inspection.
Mark, could you show me where that is in writing? Because I talked to my lawyer today and he couldn't find it. And
I'd be glad to research it. I believe we do it all the time as it relates to permits. If one, well, this is not a permit, but a Title V that's not valid, as completed, not valid, but not completed. So without having a completed Title V inspection, you're basically in violation until that's completed.
okay,
So without having a completed Title V inspection, you're basically in violation until that's completed. So without having a completed Title V inspection, you're basically in violation until that's completed. So without having a completed Title V inspection, you're basically in violation until that's completed. not you personally, but the Title V states that you have a septic system that needs work. Until that time, you don't have a valid approved Title V inspection, if
I
that
think-
helps.
I understand what you're saying, but I think that's separate from being able to operate as a restaurant.
I don't believe so. We never have issued we've never issued a food permit if a facility was in violation of a Title V requirement.
Okay. I was told differently from my lawyer, the septic
Hey,
company.
and you're welcome to call tomorrow. I'll be in and be glad to talk to your attorney as well.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah. And if anyone be different, please speak up.
From a practical matter, Stacy, the turnaround time for the D-box replacements that they need, are they
Mhm.
looking at, I mean, I don't know how long it takes to source these. And then just in terms of your turn, I mean, are they talking a few days, weeks, I mean, months? I have no idea what they're looking at.
So I sent her a price today. I'm just waiting on the 100% go ahead on that, and then I gotta order the D boxes, and I can have everything done and inspected by the end of next week.
Okay, okay,
So we can get this done.
thank you. That's helpful to know.
Yep. No, we want them to be able to keep going. So I'm all for it. We got our permits. We're doing good. So we're just waiting on the 100% go ahead, and then we'll be ordering parts and planning projects.
Fantastic, thank you.
Okay. So, subject to, I guess you'll be doing some additional research and communications, Mark, on the questions that Laura has raised. But in the meantime, is there anything else that we need to talk before we vote to authorize you to proceed as you had indicated? No, is Mark still on?
Yeah, I'm here. My communications is terrible. I didn't hear the last question. I apologize.
Oh, I was just saying, so ahead of you, you have some communications with Laura to try to resolve just the sequence of approvals, I suppose. And then the other thing we need to do, unless you have something else, or sorry, not the Heritage Fireside has something else, that we could make a motion and vote on authorizing you to proceed as you had outlined earlier.
And I would agree with that, Daryl. I think they should be able to proceed for issuing the building permit to do the renovations, but not to get an, and I spoke to Chris not to have the occupancy issued or the food permit until they meet Title V requirements.
Okay. So are there any other issues to talk about tonight on the fireside?
Just the public water supply.
Yeah.
Hopefully that's going to get resolved quickly.
Yes.
And it sounds
Yes.
like the distribution boxes will be resolved very quickly too, because I know Stacy has noted they're working to get this done, hopefully in the next week or so.
Right. So Laura, we noted that on the Mass DEP website, it is still listing Heritage as the owner operator of the public water supply. However, they also note that the website was last updated with information in January. So it could just be a lag. So anyway, so that should be resolvable. Again, Mark can direct you to who to contact. Okay, then do we have a motion to authorize Mark to proceed on various building permit approvals conditional to the conditions that he identified earlier?
Do you want to spell this out, Daryl, or will that?
I couldn't
Um,
spell out as well as Mark, if Mark would like to spell them
Okay.
out again.
Yes, that's fine. I'd be allowed to issue the building permit for renovations that they're planning to do, conditional to not occupying until the Title V inspection report is updated to not be conditional. And the other condition was that the food permit be issued only after the Title V inspection report is non-conditional and becomes a valid Title V inspection with no conditions, and that the food permit also condition the requirements in Title V for grease management, which would be, as I noted, the checking the grease tank, the exterior one, once a month, and if needed, pumped, and pumping it every 3 months if those other 2 months don't need pumping. And that would be the suggested motion to the board.
Okay, and do we need a condition on the public water supply being confirmed?
Yes, that the public water supply is now in the new owner's name.
Okay. All right, so would anyone like to move that
Can I
motion?
ask a question? Is that a condition for all the restaurants and businesses in Sherborn that serve food?
That is correct, but you're the only one, I believe, outside of the newest one that has an external grease tank.
Gotcha. Thanks.
So
And
moved.
I will say, having worked with other commercial establishments, that grease pumping is a regularly scheduled activity.
Correct, and it's a requirement. It's a requirement in the state
Yes.
Title V codes.
All right, I'll say it again. So moved.
Seconded.
Any further discussion? Hearing none.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Diana Hook, aye.
Daryl Beardsley, aye. All right, well, thank you. Thank you, Laura and Stacy. And certainly communicate with Mark with any questions or new information that arises.
I sure will. I know where to find them.
Okay.
Thank you, Stacy.
Okay. So I think next will be 86 Hunting Lane. Is that okay with you? Don?
Yeah, we do have Dawn here, the owner. Dawn has submitted a request for a building application. He's hoping to renovate his house. And we do have his plans available. There they are. And so you'll see on the left side, if you look sideways, you'll see the renovation versus the existing house on the first floor. And there's also a second floor plan. And so I think it's one page behind or one page forward. There we go with the second floor. And the same thing, you'll see how it says propose or whatever that I'm reading back sideways now to renovation
Yes,
versus existing.
Yes.
So they're looking to renovate a portion of the house to on the second floor to have a master bedroom, master bath, a laundry room, which is a smaller room. I did ask that. I think it is there. If it isn't the size of that room, the laundry room, and then there's a bedroom, and the room in question is the common space on the second floor. I explained to Dawn that we consider any room above the first floor a bedroom. So if that would be the case, and he would like to talk about its setup, and he has pictures, that may be considered a bedroom. If so, then the bedroom on the first floor that's being proposed would cause this house to be, by definition in our regulations, a 4-bedroom house. And it's only has a septic system put in 1979 for a 3-bedroom house. So the room count, as long as the board feels the kids' eating area and the kitchen are one room, the room count would be at the 7 rooms allowed for a 3-bedroom septic system. But the bedroom count may be a little different. And there was discussion on how the proposed bedroom on the first floor is a walkthrough. You can go through one door and out another area. It's kind of open to the stairway area. And that possibly could be changed to be a different type of room if Dawn so wishes. So that's the discussion at hand. And I did tell Dawn it's best I bring it to the board because, it's up to the board to decide on what he may be considering. So with that said, I would ask maybe that Dawn present anything that may be different from what I said or any wishes that he may be planning for the house.
Okay, and I do have a question about whether, I don't know if there's a door either here or here for this room that's labeled bedroom or this area.
Go ahead, Don.
It's at the end of that hallway. So you see the staircase going up.
Yes. Oh, it's all the way down here?
Yeah, so you walk down there and take a right, and then that
Oh,
brings you.
I see. Okay.
But essentially, I just, what I was telling Mark in the past is really like nothing has changed in my house, other than if you flip to the second page, that originally that bedroom at the very bottom of the page was once 2 rooms. So I'm actually reducing the number of rooms in my house, because I'm going to be taking down a wall between those 2 rooms. Nothing else is changing in my house.
Mm.
I
Okay, and
know-
Mark, the historic records indicate that it was a 3-bedroom system that went in here?
Correct. We have a septic plan from 1979 showing the house as a 3-bedroom.
Okay.
And that's essentially what will be once done, is the 1 bedroom in the middle, the 1 bedroom at the bottom of the page, and then the first page was 1 more bedroom.
Mhm.
I know there
So
was a question about the common space, but I provided pictures, and really like the common space could never be a bedroom. It's really a walk-through. As you see that, it looks like a clock at the top of the picture. That's
Mhm.
actually a spiral staircase, and it just, comes up right into that common space, which leads you to the walk-through to the bathroom into the middle bedroom. There would never be a bedroom there. Could never be a bedroom there.
Just out of curiosity, is this roughly to scale? Or no? It's more a
Um,
concept.
I had the structural engineer do this drawing.
Okay, so it's approximate. I was just curious if this is more like a hall than an open area, but okay.
That's pretty much what we had talked about, hall / or walkway, or common space is what we said.
Right, so this is a challenge for us because we don't
And I
just
think
look at, oh, sorry, go.
I was gonna say, on the first page, I think one of the big things was with the counts, was you see that there's the kitchen and the seating area, which is being counted as 2, I believe. And that, once again, is all kitchen. There is no seating, and it wouldn't make any sense because the seating would be right next to where the seating in the dining room would be.
Yeah,
And
I
there are
agree.
cabinets in that seating area.
Yeah, and we do have pictures. Don provided us pictures, and I do agree with you, Don, that I'm looking at that as 1 room, as your kitchen / eating area, seating area, eating area. But again, maybe if the board looks at some of your pictures, they might be able to, if they will show up, see how you have it set up, where you have it appears to be a table with seats in that spot.
Yes, that's what I
Seating.
saw. Did everyone get a chance to look at the photos? Just because I think my computer will really slow down if I try to bring up the photos. I could try, but
There's seating in the kitchen, yes. I mean, there's the island,
Yes.
and then in the corner that's slanted is just a table, but it's not even being used. And to be honest, it will be gone once I have my dining room set up.
And I do
Cheryl,
see, yeah, I'm sorry.
Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead, Mark.
So, I was just gonna say, I see the picture that shows a round table looking into the kitchen, so I believe that's your seating area that you took a picture of.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
yes, that kitchen and seating area looked to me to be a kitchen with a cooking prep area and an eating area. So,
I agree with that. I'm counting that as one room, the kitchen with labeled as seating, but that's really kitchen and eating.
Mhm.
I agree, that's one.
Okay,
I do too.
And so, and I have to say, I went back onto whatever real estate website to see at the point of sale, the pictures. Just because they were a little easier to see and to orient relative to everything. No offense, Don.
Cleaner too.
And I was able to piece them together in the puzzle. But I'm still a little unclear about this bedroom down here. So this is a closed off space, or there are no doors? Because it's what you answered was there was a door down in the dining room space near the stairwell, but there's no
Oh,
doors.
well, so there is a door from the dining room into the bedroom now, but the future plan is to get rid of that because it doesn't make sense to enter a bedroom through the dining room and have an entryway at the end of that hallway there. That would be the entryway.
okay, so you're going to wall up this
Yeah.
area
Exactly. Yeah.
and have, okay. We have a hearing at 7:30, so
Yeah, we're gonna
this is becoming more complicated than I had anticipated when I launched this discussion. So if it's okay with you, Don, we're going to pause this and go to take care of the hearing that we have. If we finish early with that, we can return. Otherwise, I have to warn you, there are 2 hearings in a row. So, all right.
Can I just ask, before that starts, like, I guess what is,
What is the issue?
if we're saying that the kitchen and the seating area is one, wouldn't that mean that I'm okay?
Well,
No, Don, if I can help here,
yes,
Don, it's that
please.
second floor room that has to be determined because it could be considered a 4-bedroom by the definition of what we consider a bedroom, any room over the first floor. So it's not the room count. The room count appears, I think the board members may agree, in good order. It's a matter of the bedroom count, if I'm correct.
And so this goes to what we do is look at what the use of a structure, a house could be by anyone, and not just how the current owner intends to use the space. So that cuts 2 ways. One, that the room upstairs called, I forget what it was called now, the common area on the second floor could possibly be used as a bedroom, but we'd have to discuss a little bit more about that. And then the other issue is cuts both ways. Often people would label this as an office on the first floor.
I mean, if I have to change things.
Or some other kind of room. So that's what we can come back and discuss. It's just how how are we viewing this
I mean, if I
house.
have to change this to say that, I will. It's,
Okay, so we will
yeah.
resume that discussion in just a bit.
Okay.
All right, so it's 7:30 and we have a variance hearing for a septic replacement at 62 Prospect Street. And before I open the hearing, do we have all the green cards, Ellen?
Yes, you have everything. I think Rob Truex probably has received an additional green card back, and if he can just get it to me when next time he comes to the office. But I do have the printout from the post office, so it's all set.
Okay, great. So we'll open the hearing and Rob, would you like me to share or you to share the plans on screen?
I can share if you'd like. I have it on my screen.
Okay, that would be good. You can see my screen is operating slowly at the moment,
Okay.
so. Oops, hold on. Okay,
Okay. Hi, everyone. For the record, Rob Truex, GLM Engineering Consultants. So this is a septic upgrade for 62 Prospect Street. We're looking for some relief under the local bylaw. We have an existing house that's shown here. The lot is quite large. It's almost 6 acres in size. I would like to show you that even though it's 6 acres, it's restricted with some wetlands, some ledge, and wells in the close proximity around the neighbor's property. So we were restricted on where we could get an area to test, and we're kind of in that area now with the system. Just going to give you a quick overview of the lot on Mass Mapper so you can see what I'm talking about. So this is the lot here. This is 62 Prospect. The driveway comes in right along here, splits this wetland area. There's a wetland here, and extends out onto the neighbor's property, and it comes down to the house. This area here is all wet, and this actually extends all the way up almost to the driveway. This is all wetland area up in the front, so we couldn't go in that area. This little knob that you see here in the topo, this is some very significant ledge outcropping. And then we have some wells here and some wells over here that restricted us from going in this corner. So with that said, we were pretty restricted on the lot, even though it's a 6 acre lot. And we were able to put the system in an area that we didn't need any relief on setbacks to any neighboring wells, our own well, or the property lines. So we did squeeze it in, and this is the area we tested right behind the house. It's up against the property line. We're just over 20 feet off the boundary. We did have a very high water table. It was perched water table on the top of this hill at about 2 feet, I think, was the end results. So we are mounding it up. We're proposing an Elgin drain system in a trench configuration. So we're looking for relief to install that 2 feet above groundwater. We're also looking for relief to put the system in an area where we have less than 5 feet of soil from the natural grade to the groundwater elevation. And we are looking for a waiver for the perk test because of the water when we went out there that day, and the water table was right at the modeling. There was no change from the actual high water mark in the modeling that we saw in the soil. It was very saturated. We weren't able to run a perk, so we did do a sieve analysis on the soil. So we are looking for a local upgrade approval for this, doing the sieve analysis to use as a perk rate. It is a 5-bedroom house. The existing well, our well, is out in the front yard. This is a fairly new well. There is an old well over here that's a surface well, so that's not in use. I think Mark's going to actually recommend that be eliminated. And we have a couple cesspools on the site. There's one on this side over here. There's an old one over here. So those will be eliminated as well. And that's pretty much it. It's like I said, it's a 5-bedroom house. We're doing a 2,000-gallon tank, and we do have a limited area. We were able to get the distances to the well. This well here, we have 155 feet, 150 is required. And these people have 2 wells, actually the same. That's one property with 2 wells. And on this side of the house, they have another one. We were able to get 153, where 150 is required. Our own well, we got 127 feet. 125 was required. We actually have a setback to the surface well of 137 feet, even though it's not in use. So I think that's pretty much an overview. Open it up for any questions you might have.
okay. So first, does anyone on the board have any comments or questions about this? To me, it looks like, as Rob pointed out, there are a lot of constraints on where it could not be located, and therefore you're really left with dealing with the conditions at the acceptable location.
I completely agree. And this is clearly an upgrade to the existing cesspool.
And just so the
Yes.
board knows, the septic system, the plan is to replace it. And because they weren't able to do a percolation test, they're limited to the existing bedroom count. And I did check the assessors, and existing bedroom count is a 5-bedroom. There may be the possibility that the owner's deciding to demolish the house and put up a new one. And again, it would have to remain a 5-bedroom or less.
Okay. Are there any abutters who might have any questions or comments? Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, can I be heard?
Oh, yes, now I can hear you.
Sorry about that. I'm here on behalf of one of the abutters. And I just had a quick question regarding the fact that the well that is 155 feet from the where the proposed septic tank will go is downhill. Is that going to play a role with the reduced distance between the water table and the bottom of the leaching field?
I can help answer that if the board so wishes. Mark,
Yes.
or health agent. It will not have any direct correlation to it. It does meet regulation. If the soil type was a fast perk rate, such as 3 minutes or less, which it's not, then it would require that you be 175 feet from a downhill well. But since the perk rate was at 30 minutes per inch as determined by the testing of the soil, the 150 would apply to a downhill well based on the percolation rate.
That makes sense. And I did just have one final question, more of a clarification. Is this new septic tank, I must have misread, is it replacing an old septic tank or is it replacing the current cesspools that will be demolished?
It's replacing the 2 cesspools on site.
Understood.
And it's going to be a septic tank and a leaching field. The leaching field is closest to the back property line. So if you're representing that property line, the person on the other side, that's what's on that side. And the septic tanks will be close. The septic tank will be closer to the house.
Understood.
And as Julie
You're
noted, this is a tremendous improvement to what is there. Tremendous. And the cesspools will be decommissioned as part of this project so that they are not any longer conduits into the groundwater.
Understood. That's all I have. Thank you very much.
Okay. Are there any other questions? Okay, so we'll move on to voting on the variances. And certainly if a question comes to mind for anybody, let us know when we reach that. I'm not going to read these fully since hopefully, I'm not screen sharing, so you can't see them yet, but let me screen share. And then my comment will make sense that I'm not going to read the entire. Okay. Is that appearing for you?
Yes.
No. No, it is. Okay. All right. Do we have a motion to grant a variance to section 8.01? That has to do with the separation from the bottom of the system to the high groundwater.
So moved.
Seconded.
Any further discussion? Hearing none.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Diana Hook, aye.
And Daryl Beardsley, aye. Do we have a motion to grant a variance to section 8.02? This is very similar to 8.01.
So moved.
Seconded.
And any further discussion? Hearing none.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Diana Hook, aye.
Daryl Beardsley, aye. Do we have a motion to grant a variance to section 5.1D regarding percolation tests and a sieve test used instead?
So moved.
Seconded.
Any other discussion? Hearing none.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Diana Hook, aye.
Daryl Beardsley, aye. And we have one DEP local upgrade approval. So do we have a motion to grant a variance to 310 CMR 15.4051I? Pretty much the same as the one we just voted on at the town level.
So moved.
Seconded.
Any other discussion? Hearing none,
Julie Dreyfus, I.
Diana Hook, I.
and Daryl Beardsley, aye. So we'll close the hearing, and are the plans ready for approval, Mark?
Yes, they are, and they are conditional to deed recordings for not for designing it without a garbage grinder. That deed recording would indicate a garbage grinder is not allowed. And they're using a alternative technology, an Elgin system, and they received waivers based on the fact it's an alternative technology. So with that said, they also need to place a proper deed recording for that technology.
Okay, so do we have a motion to approve the plans subject to the two conditions Mark noted?
So moved.
Seconded.
Any further discussion?
Yes, if I may, Daryl, I am interested
Yes.
in making sure they abandon well, they have to abandon the cesspools per Title V requirements. And that was already noted that the engineer stated that will be done as part of the requirement for the approval of this septic system once it's in place, but also there's an additional well on the property. And I know the board has, while we're dealing with this, the board has required that if you have a second well and this one's not in place, that it be properly abandoned by a well driller and certified to that. And I would ask that that be a condition to the plan approval.
Yes, I'm glad you brought that up. I had that jotted down and then promptly forgot. So yes, having similar to having, if we were to leave the cesspools in place, having a well that's not being used, not being looked after, also serves as a potential conduit. So decommissioning it, I think, would be the right thing to do for the benefit of the homeowner and neighbors and all the rest. So are there any issues with that being a requirement, or any questions about that from the homeowner or Rob?
I don't have an issue with that.
And is that easily accomplished while there's other work going on at the site?
I think it would be, yes.
Okay. And do you know if the homeowner is familiar with, that potential issue of decommissioning the well?
No, he's probably not familiar with how to do it, so we'll help him guide through that.
Okay. All right. So Mark, are you suggesting that this be another condition or?
Yeah, as part of your approval, yes, I am requesting that.
Okay. Okay. So shall we strike the earlier motion and start again and just have a motion to approve the plans subject to the three conditions that Mark has identified, the two deed recordings and the well decommissioning?
And the cesspool abandonment.
And cesspool abandonment, yes. I think that's automatic as part of Title V.
Okay.
Yes, it is.
All right. So moved.
Seconded.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none,
Julie Dreyfus, I.
Diana Hook, I.
and Daryl Beardsley, aye. Okay, so thank you, Rob.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Okay, you too.
Right.
Okay, we have 1 minute to our next hearing. So, don't know if that's, oh, I know, we'll use up that time. Ellen, have we received the green cards?
Yes, everything's all set, been received. You can open the hearing.
Okay, thank you. Let's see. Oh, Dan, let me ask you again while we're waiting for 7:50 to officially come up. Would you like to share the plans on screen or would you like me?
Dan, are you with us? If not, I'll text you to.
I'm sorry, I was trying to get off mute. Yeah, I'd be happy to share the plans.
Okay, thank you. Okay, noting that it's 7:50, I'll call the septic replacement variance hearing for 91 Western Ave to order, and Dan will be explaining the reasons that the variances are being requested.
Thank you, Dan McIntyre, representing the homeowners. They are in the process of getting the house ready for sale. And it is, one of those homes that is still served by a cesspool. It's a 4-bedroom house. So oriented, this is Western Avenue over on the left-hand side. House is located about in the center of the lot up on top of the hill. The cesspool is on the side of the house here. Has some still historic overflow well that we've located. The well is on the opposite side of the house here, and the well radiated pretty much takes up central location lot. There's also a wetland we had delineated for the back here. It's 100-foot buffer. Take up into the back here. We excavated 4 different test pits. 2 kind of on the top of the hill right here. 2 at the bottom of the hill here. Very similar to what Rob found on Prospect Street. High groundwater table, 24 inches. Unable to do a perforation test. We opted to put the system down at the base of the hill. This slopes down from the house down to Western Avenue. And we did this so we can kind of spread out the trenches to try to distribute the effluent over the area. Because of the height of it. Which is very common for this area of Western. So, we are proposing to use the Elgin alternative technology. It does a couple of things for it. It helps us reduce the mound to having the approval to reduce groundwater and sled. And it also improving the treatment of the effluent. DEP allows up to a 2-foot offset to groundwater. In this particular instance, you're able to achieve a 3-foot ground without having to putting up a chain. We're asking for such an offset which I think.
Oh, that was breaking up for me. I don't know if that's just my computer.
I'm struggling to hear Dan.
Okay, just the last bit I really couldn't follow.
Those left, it was the Elgins allow for up to 2-foot groundwater offset under the DEP approved. We're designing for a 3-foot offset, so it's a little more conservative. I think we just wanted to have the little more figure before we get to know the table and figure very much. So we've got a tank coming off the existing plumbing off the side of the house, going down the hill with pump tank here, pumping up to the Elgin. We meet all of the offsets to the well, to the neighbors who are over here in 85 Western, the on-site well here. We are asking for waivers to local regulations as well as title by upgraded waivers with respect to the Burkhead and the ground similar to Prospect. So I think with that, I can turn it over for questions.
Okay. So Mark, just a general read. It seems like, again, it's a site that is limited in options. There were 2 options, but I gather that this one with being able to distribute the effluent perhaps over a greater area than would have happened up the hill. Is that your interpretation?
And I believe there were constraints on the property. Go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, the top of the hill would have been much higher than the side of the hill.
Oops,
Yeah.
I'm
Possible
missing that.
move of the tree.
Okay, I couldn't hear that, so.
Yeah,
but-
Dan, I
couldn't
believe,
hear Dan either.
yeah, Dan, you broke up a little bit, but you had a deep hole between where the system's going and the house, and I believe you made that determination in the field that the better soil was towards the side hill here. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Any other particular observations, Mark, that you want to share with us before the board asks questions?
Well, the engineer noted that this is 2 feet groundwater, so it's an extra foot that he could have gone 2 feet to groundwater, so that's appreciated. And it is the Elgin system, so it's going to have treatment that a regular septic system wouldn't. So with that said, that will be deed recorded, but I believe based on what was presented and the site conditions as presented, this is probably the best location for the septic system.
Yes, and it was a failed system, so this is important to replace. So do any other board members have any questions?
No questions. It's the same. This is clearly an improvement over the failed septic system with high
Yeah,
groundwater.
ditto.
Yes, and I also, in looking at the requests for waivers, appreciate the 3-foot offset that was achieved with the IA. So, are there any abutters who have any questions? Okay, same offer. We'll move on to voting on the variances. But if you think of something, just raise a hand or let us know. Okay, so, oops. All right. So do we have a motion to grant it? Are you seeing the regulations? No, you're still, sorry. Dan, you need to stop sharing. There we go.
My apologies, my computer died when we were up with it. A new computer, so I don't know where else. Yeah, it's different.
I don't know.
Number 9.
Yeah, we're all suffering for whatever reason. Okay. So there we go. All right, do we have a motion to grant the variance to section 5.1C? And that's regarding the number of test pits that were provided.
So moved.
Seconded.
Any further discussion? Hearing none.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Diana Hook, aye.
Gerald Beardsley, aye. Do we have a motion to grant a variance to 5.1D? And this is the sieve test rather than perk test.
So moved.
Seconded.
Any other discussion? Hearing none.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Diana Hook, aye.
Darrell Beardsley, aye. Do we have a motion to grant a variance to 8.01 regarding that offset to groundwater with 3-foot provided, where 2-foot is required?
So moved.
Seconded.
Any other discussion? Hearing none.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Diana Hook, aye.
Darrell Beardsley, aye. And the companion to the prior one, do we have a motion to grant a variance to 8.02?
So moved.
Seconded.
Any other discussion? Hearing none.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Diana Hook, aye.
Darrell Beardsley, aye. And now we have Title V local upgrade waivers. Do we have a motion to grant a variance to 15.4051I, similar to a local variance that we voted on.
So moved.
Seconded.
Any other discussion? Hearing none.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Diana Hook, aye.
Darrell Beardsley, aye. And we have a motion to grant a variance to 15.4051J. And this has to do with, we see this occasionally, that tank piping and groundwater are separated by less than 12 inches. And so there are tank features specified to overcome that.
So moved.
Seconded.
Any other discussion? Hearing none.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Diana Hook, aye.
Darrell Beardsley, aye. Okay, so I'll close the hearing, and are the plans ready for approval, Mark?
Yes, they are, and just so the board knows, the condition related to not being able to do a perk in the field has been met. The house design is for 4 bedrooms. As per the assessor's records, it is a 4-bedroom facility. I'm going to recommend to the board that it be approved conditional to 2 deed recordings, one for the fact that they didn't design for a garbage grinder, so that'll be a garbage grinder prohibition. And the other one is for the use of the innovative technology, utilizing the, I just lost my thought there, utilizing the Elgins. Thank you.
Okay, so do we have a motion to approve the plan subject to receipt of the 2 deed recordings that Mark identified?
So moved.
Seconded.
Any further discussion? Hearing none.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Diana Hook, aye.
Darrell Beardsley, aye. So thank you, Dan. Any
Very much.
other questions?
I'm all set.
All right, terrific. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, so let's return to our discussion of 86 Hunting Lane. I'll bring up the plans. Okay. So I think we left off in John, you were commenting on room identification. Oh, I'll note that there is a bit of a gray area. So one is just how one chooses to name rooms. For example, we didn't put the term seating here, but that was just in case. We do think that it was just part of a kitchen, an eat-in kitchen. So no problem in terms of that. There's a bit of a gray area with this common space. One is that there's a stairwell coming up into it, which implies a certain lack of privacy for that room. And is it merely a pass-through space from a circular staircase through then to the bathroom, then to another bedroom? It gets a little complicated for us. I don't know if circular staircases are to code as a staircase or an egress. I don't know the ease with which that a door could be added either up top or down below to close it off and make it a bedroom. So that would be some of the gray area on that one. And Diana, do you have a comment?
Yes, I had a question about the spiral staircase. The walls around that, are they like full walls or are those like half walls? Yeah.
So John, if you want to answer that.
I'm not sure how to answer that. It's in the corner of a room and it goes up, and I'm sure it was because the prior owner pulled a permit. I'm sure it was reviewed. So.
Like, I guess I have a spiral staircase in my house and the wall is like open. It's more like railing wall and it's only, 3-4 feet, it doesn't go to the ceiling.
Right, it's got a railing all the way around it as you go up.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, at the very top though.
At the top, it's got it just walks into the room. There's no possibility of adding a door here, and it wouldn't make any sense. It literally is a hallway. Like that's me coming into the area, and probably like maybe a 12 or 14-foot walk by those baskets to that area that's my bathroom.
Okay, okay, so we're looking
At the
from the
Top
staircase
of the
into the room.
staircase.
Okay,
Yep.
okay.
Yep, exactly.
And this is railing, this brown is the railing.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay.
okay, thank you. Yeah, so that wouldn't be so easy to close up.
No, it would, and it's
No.
all windows. It's meant, like, I just use it as an office, and you can see that's a gathering area for my junk. So,
I think we typically see this labeled as a loft or kind of a.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Need to-
All right, so let's go back to the plans. So Mark, do you have any opinions on that, whether this would be consistent with other loft areas that we've looked at?
It would. We didn't know about the opening to the first floor at the beginning. But again, I brought it to the board just so we have an official record. The minutes will probably go on file. But, someone may pick this up and see it as a 4-bedroom. I'm bringing it to the board
Yes.
to make sure we can secure this house as a 3-bedroom and to allow the applicant, to allow Don to do the addition that he so wishes to do.
Mhm. So I think it would be helpful to have this labeled as loft for our records.
okay.
And maybe something here. I mean, this almost looks like walls all around here.
Just
I don't
open
know
that
if
up,
there's a
yeah.
way to just clarify that for interpretation.
Yeah, maybe I'll try to make it look exactly like it does. It's kind of hard to draw, but
Yeah.
it
Well,
really is
maybe-
just open.
Maybe just a single line, because what
Yeah.
confused me was that it's double lined like the outside walls of the house, and it was like, oh.
Yeah.
Uh,
Okay. So I'll open top of spiral. And then do you want me to remove the seating and just put kitchen in the middle?
Kitchen, yes. I think that would clarify that.
We've had.
How does it feel
meetings.
about this approach?
I agree that kitchen seating is it's one room. When I looked at it, it was clear that it was one space.
Yes. And with the loft area, does that feel consistent with how we've looked at other things that had that kind of open approach?
It does. It's slightly hard because of how it enters into the bathroom,
Yes,
but we've also seen that as well.
yes. Right, these get difficult. Where to draw the lines, almost literally. Okay. Mark, any comments from you?
I believe these are appropriate conditions, and that way, once we get the new plans in, and I wouldn't have a problem, but it's up to the board where the seating area is near the kitchen. That could just say kitchen eating area, and we've allowed that as part of the kitchen because it has the word kitchen eating area. But
Yeah.
just label the whole thing as kitchen. It doesn't, but that's how we would see it either way. But once those new plans come in, they'll go to file. Then I can approve the proposed addition. Based on the fact it's 7 rooms and 3 bedrooms as discussed tonight.
Mhm. See, actually, this drawing, this is like what you were saying, Diana. The upstairs looks like it is walled off and could almost have a door there. So this is maybe what it looks like upstairs as well. Done. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think that picture that you had shown is the best representation of it. It's just basically that's me standing at the top of the staircase taking a picture into the room.
Okay, so it really is just a hole in the floor, in the
Yep.
second floor. Okay. All right. I think that would help clarify.
And that would
the
just be this plan, right? That I'd only have to do this plan, rewrite some of the stuff here, right? That's it.
I believe so.
Yeah, I don't think
you know,
anything
you
else changes, so.
You could sketch things out.
Dawn had we do have architectural plans for the renovated area, which is similar to what he drew. We were just trying to get a full house floor plan so that the board could see how the house is set up.
All right, so Mark, and Ellen. So shall go to authorize Mark to be able to approve plans subject to receipt of revised floor plans that reflect our discussion tonight.
That sounds appropriate.
Okay. So
moved then?
Excellent.
Seconded.
All right, any other discussion? Hearing none?
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Diana Hook, aye.
And Daryl Beardsley, aye. All right, thank you. Any other questions before you go? Or we move on to another topic? Don?
I'm all set. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate it.
Hey, good
Okay.
night.
Thank you,
Have a
Don.
good day.
Call with any questions.
Thank you.
Daryl, you're welcome. Daryl, I saw the engineer for Lot B Hunting Lane. I don't know if the owner for 110-112 North Main is here, but I did see the applicant for Pilgrim Church. I don't know who's with us still, but those 3 points of business, I did see people earlier.
Mark,
Yes.
Mark, it's James Modern from 112. I'm on my daughter's Zoom, so it's
Okay.
Carolyn.
Okay. That's why I didn't recognize you. So I'll leave it up to the chair, Daryl, how you want to handle this, but we have the 3 persons that will be listening in and just to see the status of those 3 other items under agent's business.
Okay, so well, let's start with 1, then 3, then 4, and see if we can do it. We had an approximately scheduled thing for 8:20, but that was approximate. So,
And we do have James Moterm here. He is the owner of 110-112 North Main. He has indicated that he will be in contract with an engineer to do the soil testing, and I believe we might have a communication from him. I'm not for sure if it's part of our agenda items. Ellen, is that another item that was on there? I didn't double check, but it was email.
What communication item, Mark?
Just the email from James related to the status of 110-112 North Main.
I didn't receive that.
That's okay. I have it, and that was basically the process that James indicated he would follow. Originally, he was going to have the soil testing started by March 15th, which is only next week. So he responded, I believe, to request to go. He said, let's see. He said he'd be on the Zoom call tonight and that he will start the process at the beginning of April. Again, I know the time goes by fast, so I would just ask James to maybe explain why it got pushed up to April.
I think maybe I misunderstood what this email was previously, but I had talked to Eileen, and I think Dan's on right now, about getting the ball rolling now, and that they would be able to start. They would be out to the property at the beginning of April. That was that's what I had understood that March 15th date to be, is that the application and the process was started. So maybe I misunderstood.
No, I think you are correct. Do you plan on having the application fee in on March 15th with the,
Yes. Yeah.
with Dan as the engineer? Okay.
Yes. Yes. They've been very helpful and yeah, I talked to Eileen a couple of days ago, so they've been great.
I believe that would be satisfactory, but again, I think the important part too is to make sure that the soil testing's done by the end of April and that the septic system be installed. I think we said by midsummer,
Yeah.
per the letter email that was sent to you.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, as long as you're still working and you've secured a contract with the soil evaluator, that would be great. And I'll be glad to give the board an update at their next meeting, which will be after March 15th. So hopefully everything will be in before the next meeting.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. And I'll keep you updated through email about the process in the next couple of weeks to make sure you know what's happening with it.
I think that's sufficient, but I'll leave it up to the board to give you any final comments.
That sounds good to me. Okay, I see nodding, so I think we're good. All right, item.
Darryl, I'm
Mark?
sorry you broke up, but Lot B
Oh,
Hunting Lane.
Yeah,
We have
thank you.
revised septic plans. Thank you for Lot B Hunting Lane, and we do have the engineer. Joe Lasano was available. I'm not for sure if he's still with us, but if he is, Joe, if you would like to, while we draw the plans up, maybe present.
Yeah, yeah, are you gonna draw the plans up or I can draw the plans up? It's up to you.
I
Darryl,
think
if the-
I don't have them. I don't think.
I have
Sure.
them.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Can everybody see this?
Yes.
So this is a standard new construction sewage disposal system. I had previously gotten approval about a year ago, because I wanted to, confirm that, you know, the site was viable for sewage disposal before we went through the process of getting full architectural drawings and then going through the process of the Conservation Commission. So we got the plans approved for the SAS. And then went through the conservation process. We just recently received approval a month or two ago from them. And then I resubmitted plans to Mark for review. He had a couple of minor comments that he gave back to me that I then revised and sent back. And I believe at this time the plan as proposed meets all those requirements. The septic system is for a 6-bedroom dwelling. It's designed with a 2,000 gallon pump chamber. 2,000 gallon septic tank with a pump chamber that pumps up to a distribution box, and then a gravity fed leach field, regular pipe and stone trenches after it leaves the distribution box. And you know, it meets all the required setbacks from the abutters wells, the wells that are on the property, and the stormwater systems that were designed for mitigation for the Conservation Commission.
And Joe, if you can point out where the new proposed well is going to, because the board's going to be approving both the new well as well as the new septic, the proposed septic.
Yes, the proposed well is way back here behind the patio, in the backyard. And then the SAS is located approximately 180 feet away downhill out in the front yard here. So well, leach field.
And Joe is presenting the correct plan. If the board looks down at the bottom right, this is the revision dated. We got to look at my plan because it's small, dated February 7th of 2024. And I would recommend to the board that the proposed well and proposed septic system be approved. At the same time, there will be a condition for the garbage, a deed recording requirement for the deed, for the garbage grinder. And that would be my recommendation to the board.
Okay, and so are there any other questions or comments from board members? So this is new construction, so it's meeting all of our requirements, and then the deed recording for the not including a garbage grinder in the calculations is standard, somewhat
is
standard
correct.
for new
Yeah, and you
construction.
can, yeah, and the garbage grinder is a standard as well that you can request, and including new construction. And then once approved, there will be a process where the well has to be drilled first to prove potable water. And then once that's done, the house has to be constructed. And once the house is constructed, then the septic system would go in after all the major plumbing's in, as well as we get a foundation plan showing the well location.
And the purpose of it going in after, the septic going in after, is so it has the right relationship to the house in terms of drainage. Are there any other reasons for going in afterwards, Mark?
Yeah, no damage to it during construction of the house.
Yeah.
And that is correct. The plumbing is most important too, because if the plumber put the plumbing up or down too low and the system's up higher, then we're dealing with, well, in this case, we don't have to worry as much, but it could require a pump system where this one is already. But this is, as the board may want to look at, is set up on a hill. There's quite a bit of grading going on, but Joe did a nice job designing it and making sure it fit into the hillside.
Okay. Looks good to me.
Can I just ask a question for the minutes?
Sure.
I showed that this is a revision to a previously approved plan, that the plan was originally approved on February 1st of 2023. And this is a revision. So essentially, it's actually a question from Mark. Wouldn't the well have already been approved under the
Yes,
previous?
it was. So if you already have that approved, but Joe, is the location the same as the old plan? I can open up the old plan. I think I have it.
It moved less than 2 feet, but it moved approximately, a foot and a half page north.
Okay. So what I
So-
would say is this plan can be used, but as Ellen just noted, and appropriately so, the well's already been approved, so that well permit's been issued. And you just would use this plan for the location of it when they go to drill it. Thank you, Ellen.
Welcome.
Thank you.
So the approval would be for the septic plan since the well has been approved previously.
Okay. All right. Are there any, well, it's not a variance hearing, but are there any abutters who might have any questions? Okay. Then do we have a motion to approve the septic plan, the revised septic plan as presented, conditional to receipt of the garbage grinder deed recording?
So moved.
Oh, seconded.
All right, any other discussion? Hearing none.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Diana Hook, aye.
Darrell Beardsley, aye. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you very much. All right.
Okay. Yes, I saw Peter Lifferton. I think some of us remember him from being on the board previously. He has requested on behalf of the Pilgrim Church to look for a well reclassification. We do have the form available. It's part of the agenda items. Maybe if we can draw the form up, there is section C that I wanted to discuss with the board.
Okay.
Peter, are you still with us?
I'm with you. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. It's hard to see because I only have half the screen open for the Zoom attendance. There you are. Hi, Peter. So
Okay,
the
it's fine.
reclassification is a form that's required to be filled out, and within the form, it does show that there's been some changes at the church on the amount of use by the various parishioners and various members who may go to meetings there. So they're looking to change the classification, but there is a section C, that I wanted the board to look at to see if there's any comments, and we'll go from there. So you'll see under section C, it's Board of Health use only. It notes, let me move my Zoom people, sorry, move them to the side, that the boards of health must consider at least 1 year of written daily attendance logs when determining the population of a facility. So this is, I believe, my first time doing something of this nature, and I'm not for sure if those logs are available. Peter, if you could help us on that.
Yeah, I really can help you on that because the daily attendance logs, there are 3 people in attendance on a daily basis. There's an administrator, there's a pastor, and there's the music director. And those are the only 3 people who are in the building on a daily basis, 5 days a week, not even full time. I'd like us to go back to the history of how this got classified because quite ways back, the church allowed a daycare operation in the church with a significant number of children and so forth, and the population was deemed to be significant and put us into a very high classification for a semi-public water supply. I'm afraid I don't know all the abbreviations and so forth, but what we're looking at is to get to a lower classification, to not have such a stringent testing schedule. We're spending many thousands of dollars a year on testing, which seems excessive for that kind of population. Now, admittedly, on Sunday, we have services, and the services attract 75 to 80 people on Sunday. But I believe the classification is based on a daily usage, and that is far from daily. So again, with Mark's help, I contacted someone in the DEP, and the woman very, very helpfully said, "Oh yeah, well, if that seems to be your history, let me send you the form, and you just fill in the form and send it to the Board of Health agent, and that's the process." So that's the process we're in here. Sure. There really are no daily attendance logs because there are three employees there. We do have 5 employees paid, but 2 of them don't even work there. They work from home. So
and you did explain on the first page, if we can move to the first page, the change in use, basically,
yeah.
The use right there up in the discussion areas.
Yeah.
You go down a little bit, you'll see it.
Yeah.
Right in the, right down about reduction in use. And it talks about the population. So, I mean, I can go by what was stated here at the meeting by Peter and put that in the section that talks about having an attendance log. That attendance log was discussed at the Board of Health meeting on March 6th and noted that there's 5 employees. Some of them don't even work there every day, but 5 days a week, there's up to 5 steady employees, with 2 that work out of not even within the church, so 3 employees. I mean, if the board wants me to put that on the form, I could do that.
I think I would rather that Peter write up what he just explained, perhaps on Pilgrim Church letterhead, and we attach that. You explain why there are no daily logs, and then what the conditions are, because I mean, there's no such thing at the state level as a semi-public water supply, but there are different categorizations for public water supplies. The most stringent of all are for residential, because if something goes wrong with water, unlike at a commercial establishment, you can't send people home to, stop drinking the water at your business. So for a business, it's less stringent than for residential. So that's one, or another organization. And then the levels, you're going from what's called non-transient, non-community. So community is equal to residential. Non-transient, non-community means that you've got the same group of people there day after day. And so in the past, the daycare met that. You've got a group of children who are there. In the rules, it's 4 days a week for 180 days a year, half the year, something along those lines. Don't hold me to that exact number, but it is 4 days a week. So if you're not having the same group of people there 4 days a week, or half the year roughly, then they become a transient group, right? They're not getting most of their drinking water from your public water supply. Therefore, that's why the testing would change. Testing requirements would change. It's about exposure, I suppose. In any case, so that's what's going on, and it sounds like if it's 1 day a week, essentially, that you have roughly 80 people, and then there are a variety, I noticed on the website, a variety of other uses of the church by different groups, but there you've got listed just the congregation AA meetings, and I saw some other things listed online. But it doesn't sound like any of them rises to that 4-day week criteria, and therefore I think it's appropriate to be in the categorization that you're seeking. So I would.
I'm happy to give you that letter, for a longer explanation of the history and what the current usage is. Thank you.
Thank you. That would be great. And then we could just attach that and move on. So does anyone else have any comments on that on the board? No? Okay. Oh, Diana?
Oh, no, I was just saying that sounds good.
Okay. So I think I'd wrap up the paperwork, and I assume that this, after we have reviewed it, goes to DEP, Mark? Because they are.
Yes, that is correct. So I will sign on behalf of the board if that's your wish.
Okay.
And that's after we receive the written information from Peter in respect to the population as noted in section C of this form. And then I would send
Right.
this back to the state after getting that information so be it if the board so votes.
Yes.
I
And I don't,
will point out, I didn't put anything in section C because it said it was only for the board and the agent, so, but I'm happy to give you more detail.
yes, that would be nice. And either, I don't know if you still have if this was faxed in or emailed in an electronic form, that if somebody has to add something that just says C attachment here in section C. And that could be Mark, if we're doing it that way, once it gets sent in, or it could be you resending in the whole package, whatever you prefer.
No,
I think as long as we get it.
yeah, no, the next step, Mark takes it and carries it from there is the way I read this.
And it also seems like there should be a PWS ID in here.
I have no idea what that, I have no idea what my PWS ID is. I guess I'll find
you can find it on,
I'll go find it. Okay.
We have it.
for instance, you can use the name.
I have it both on my
Oh.
computer and it's available in the office.
Okay, thank you,
Okay.
Malcolm.
All right, then do we have a motion to authorize Mark to complete section C, conditional to receipt of, which way do you want to go, Peter? Do you want to add the numbers yourself? I think it's
Yeah,
more
no,
appropriate that.
Yeah, I'll give you an explanation of the numbers in a
Okay.
letter on letterhead.
Okay. And do you want to finish up with the ID and just making note that it's the attachment here?
Again, that I'm not supposed to be working in that
Oh, yeah,
section.
that's right. You're not supposed to write it here. Never mind. Okay.
Yeah.
So, all right,
Don't want to break rules here,
Yeah.
good. That's what we want to hear. All right. This was a test. All right. So authorize Mark to complete section C after receipt of the attachment and the provision of the PWS ID number.
So moved.
Seconded.
Okay, any other discussion? Hearing none.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Diana Hook, aye.
And Daryl Beardsley, aye. Okay, well,
And
thank you.
As a fellow Board of Health member, I thank you. Different board.
Yes. Holliston, for those who don't know. So, all right.
I got drafted, you know. Thank you.
Oh, all right. Okay, let's see. We have our little off for our other appointment. Again, let's see. All right, Farm Road Homes. Out of curiosity, I know DGT was here for something else, so I don't believe they were going to weigh in on this. Okay, all right.
Daryl.
Yes, he's gone. Okay. All right, so Farm Road Homes is nearing closing. And so the applicant offered to have the engineer come to answer any questions we may have. And I'd like to try to zero in on specific questions that we may have. And so we'd like to also try to tighten up the discussion just for time reasons, to try and look at the specific data that you may have in reports and things that you may want to share. So I'm actually going to stop sharing so that in case there is anything you can pull up as we try to work through some of the last details. I think I'd like to start off with your issues though, Mark, before I get into some of the other ones that we've been wrestling with that include groundwater flow direction and how that was determined, and a couple of other items. But I know that there were outstanding deficiencies that you identified a few weeks ago, Mark.
Yes.
And so maybe if in terms of the profiles or other information that we need to clear up, if you could walk us into like what you need.
Sure. And Deshang did submit to us. I received it today, but it's dated March 1st, but we did receive it today, March 6th. Responses to my request for information, and one of them was related to the water shutoffs and so forth. I received the letter, but I have not yet received the plot plans, the septic plans. But I would like to be able to see, the discussion was about the water lines, and it noted they'll be 5 feet below grade, and shutoffs will be provided at the inside from the branch line. The circuit breaker can turn off the pump and so forth. I would ask that that be added to the septic plans and the well plan. It's a combination plan of septic systems and septic system and the wells. The second one was a groundwater profile. I haven't seen the plot plan yet, but I would ask that one, and I did note that a groundwater profile, what we would like to see, showing the groundwater from one depot to another or how it was extrapolated. And that's all done through a groundwater profile. And I would like to see that on the plot plans. And I hope that if there's, we're going back and forth with letters, but I would like to most likely sit down with Deshang to go over any questions he may have and what I'm expecting to see on the plot plan. So I would suggest that, the applicant doesn't mind that I meet with his engineer to go over some of these issues. The next one was the soil testing shown on the plot plan itself. Sorry for the paper noise. His response was that he felt, based on the soil types, that it was a loomy sand. And again, we agree to disagree, I guess, because my soil test logs show some variations to what his soil test logs show, but I don't know what we can do about that. But I would just say I agree to disagree with the fact that I was in the field and I knew what I was recording when I was in the field. In the future, we will look at each other's soil test logbooks before we leave the field, so that doesn't happen. The elevation of the perk tests, he is correct. He says Title V doesn't require it. It's a preference to have it. It just gives us a better indication of what layers of soil were tested. I can determine that from the information he provided on the perk test within the deep holes. So I think that one's been resolved one way or the other. The next one was, and there's a couple more. It's
actually, maybe
Yep.
if we can, to make it easier, for my memory and maybe Shang's as well, is if we could do one at a time to try to just
sure.
resolve
Yeah, I'm sorry.
and keep the discussion very tight to
Yeah.
specifics, or if Shang feels that the information is already on one of the plans, if he could bring up the plan and point out where it is, that kind of thing.
Sure. Well, that sounds good.
Just seeing if we could zero in on these items, so.
I'll leave it up to Deschang if he wants to. The first item was showing a note on the plan about the water lines being a minimum of 5 feet below grade, and information on the shutoffs and where they're located, as well as the circuit breakers. So I'm not for sure if that got populated yet on the septic plans, well plans.
And Deschang, you can share your screen if you would like.
Let me share. I think we put in the utility details in the preliminary, no, in the comprehensive plan. We haven't populated into the so it's a node. So we don't, because it's inside of the building. Basically, we didn't draw it. Just like, let me see. I think I need to bring up the comprehensive rather than the septic plan.
And while you're doing that, Deschang, it's because it's a septic / well plan. It would be helpful to have that note on that plan. Excuse me. Excuse me.
No, that's easy to do. Yeah, we can definitely section for that notes to this plan too. So we were, yeah, that's not a problem. So that assuming that's a resolved. So basically the response is the one we put on the comprehensive plan. We created a separate utility plan, including water, sewer line, not the sewer septic fields, and water line and the cable and the electric. So, and we provided the details. So, and the notes, so in the building is basically going into a water tank, and when the water tank is split out, so each of the branch line go to each units will well shut off. And then when the line going into each building, they will also have a shut off. So
okay, so just a quick question. Are you able to show us that just so we have a visual and we know what we're looking for when we're looking at the plans? Like we need which plan it's on so that
we don't have on the plan. We just made a note because this is very unusual in general. Just like even public water supply going into a building, there will be a shut off well. But I have never seen people would put on a standard plan, because that's basically a standard practice. If we need to draw like a well, we will have to add that onto the plan, but we put it on the notes. So normally I don't see people, if you have public water supply coming in and the curb shut off, yes, you put on the plan. But I never seen people will draw up like inside of the building shut off or a control box, because those the pumps have to be wired to an electric control box, and that's the one not usually the civil engineer will need to do that part.
Okay, well, let's go back to Mark. Mark, do you agree with that? Is that, or is there a misinterpretation of what our plans usually show and what he's talking about? I'm trying to understand the
Understandable.
issue.
Yeah, and I would ask that, you know, the note be placed on the septic well plan. And
I
as
agree
no,
with that.
it's also on a utility plan is how it was, he noted it. So that would be fine. And where there's any, not just that, but whether ever
yet? A detailed One that,
detail would be helpful with is crossovers, where a water line crosses over a septic line to make sure the water line is not underneath the septic line, the sewer line.
right, because that is our responsibility to check that, isn't it?
Correct. That is correct, Darrell.
Right, so we have to have a plan, otherwise we can't verify that it meets the requirements. So somewhere we need a plan. where
Yes, we
can look
have
at-
that. We put on the comprehensive plan with the details in. So that's just we can bring that detail sheet attaching to the or as part of reference. So we need to work out like a little bit detail the construction, how the so it's almost like the subdivision. We have details of the trench of sewer and the water and the
Yes,
how they're
yeah.
crossing, so that's all provided, just a second, let me see, I can. let me
And the
bring
other
up
thing, do we need the plan layers scaled back, Mark, like to highlight the utilities without obscuring them with all the other information that's on
It would be,
the,
yeah, I would agree with that. It'd be most helpful, especially with this, the crossovers, that we just see the sewer line and we see the water line at that crossover. It could be an arrow pointing to it and then expanded into a small little plan showing the two lines, just to make sure that on these crossovers, if indeed there's going to be an issue, that then they'll have to meet Title V for the appropriate type of pressure pipe, that the pipe will have to meet a certain pressure standard, and that being the water line.
Mhm. Okay, and do you need to see electrical, or that is not one of the things? you need to
Electrical would be
evaluate?
more up to the comprehensive plan for the building department.
Okay.
Electrical director.
Okay. Sounds good. All right, so does that make sense to Shang? Like what
yes, yeah, we already, as I said,
evaluate? We can't
yeah, I agree
evaluate
with that,
if
yeah, no,
decision.
we agree with that.
All right,
You're just
Okay.
basically coordinating, so what we would need to bring into the septic sets of plan. And so, because we do have a utility plan, as I said, I'm trying to
Mhm.
find those, there's too many files, I have,
okay. All right, so I think that's one, we'll see, what the, if you and Mark are exchanging information or however it's happening, then it sounds like we can get to that point.
That would resolve the question
Yeah.
under deficiency number 7. Then it goes into the next note I provided, which was deficiency number 9, which was a groundwater profile to be provided showing the estimated groundwater determination at the septic tanks and the pump chamber. The detailed profile is to show the groundwater depots labeled. He noted 2 depots, Deshang noted 2 depots, SLTP2 and SWTP3. Those should be shown in the extrapolation of the groundwater, and it should also show where the tanks are so that we can see how we got from point A to point B on the groundwater determination with the tanks in between. So that is, again, I don't have the new plot plan yet, but I'm not for sure if Deshang's looking for it right now, but that would be very helpful to make sure and to have that groundwater profile provided on the plot plan, and to include the Frimpton method adjustments that were used. It should be on the plot plan. You can put within a little block, the actual formula that was used and the depots that were used, including the USGS well that was used for the Frimpton methodology.
So if he needs it as a guide, could we produce an example from another plan?
Oh, sure. Yeah, we've had other engineers put the Frimpton method and the actual formula, not just the formula, but the data put into that formula, such as the USGS well and the information on what date it was that the USGS well was read to compare to the well that was read on site. So we know that the Frimpton methodology has been used appropriately.
Okay.
see my shared screen or no?
It's very tiny, but I see something red and something with white and words. Oh, yes, now.
Yeah, so for the, I should have, So that's just one thing, we did those testings in the area where all the tanks are located. Basically, there's one there and the one test pit is here. All those test pits are dry, and then there's one test pit near this. I think we didn't dig in this one. This is on like a hill. It's going to be probably will have some like a fill here. So because of the test pit like this, so it showed this is a septic plan. Probably just maybe hide it. It was on the plan. Shows estimated high groundwater at 209.3. So the reason we didn't do the Frimpton method is we dig in this one. This is up in the hill. It's during the high groundwater season. It's totally dry. I mean, we feel we didn't even dig in all the way to. At the time, we were sort of to, let's call it sewer line test pit 2, actually SL representing sewer line. We were just at that time expecting the sewer probably will be no more than 6 feet. So when we did that, but this one actually, you know, it's like almost 9 feet deep. So there's no groundwater. So we just use this dry pit. It's almost exactly already in this field, in this vicinity. And we use, assuming that dry as during the high groundwater season as our groundwater, we calculated the buoyancy checking because that's the function of this high water we need to put it here. So so this is right here. So each of the tank check, it's like just by weight itself of the tank, it will have no problem because there's basically.
Yes, we have tank buoyancy. So here's a comment. For me, you know these numbers. For me, trying to read what's inside that box is not easy. You knew it was 209. I knew it was maybe something with an 09, but it's not simple. And the other thing is, I think, and Mark, correct me, I think I'm hearing that you did not apply any Frimpton adjustment to look at not seasonal high groundwater on a given single season, but we're looking for historic high groundwater because 1 year in the span of the life of this system, we want to understand more what the historic high is going to be. That's going to be more important than any single year, single month, single day data point. So we've always required the adjustments unless there were months, and then we'll go up to models. So we need to have that. This isn't meeting the requirements.
That is correct, Darrell. We need to have an adjustment set on that deep hole. And it would be the Frimpton method, even if it was the high groundwater season. Every season fluctuates from 1 year to the next. That's why we always utilize the Frimpton method unless models were found. Now, there could be the opportunity to look at a deep hole on one side of the tanks and on the other side, maybe down at the field and extrapolate. But as you can see, there's quite a drop in the elevation. So a test hole that was done up there, if it wasn't deep enough, I would suggest another deep hole be dug deep where the tanks are going and an adjustment be applied to it if there's no models.
Right. So
we will address that. We can, because it just, if this is for the leaching field, I would think we need it. So 9 foot a hole, I think is deep enough just for this area, I assume. And we can add the adjustment. We already calculate the adjustment because the same time we did all the leaching field test pit, we already calculated, I think it's about 1.83. We're going to add on to this. If after we add to it, we check in the buoyancy again. If it's a buoyancy, it's no problem. We don't have to, go any further in my view from the engineering concerns. So because that's not.
So Mark, do you agree that for purposes of buoyancy of tanks that there's not a need to calculate?
No, I can calculate. I can add to it. That's not a problem. I say I will add that from the adjustment to corrections to the bottom of the dry pit, and that's the extreme conservative for the buoyancy calculation. So after if I calculate that, it's no problem. Those tanks are pretty heavy, and some are shallow, so some are deeper, like in the pump.
Okay, but we still want just the calculation, because let's say you did a Frimpton adjustment and the water came up to within the 12 inches that we just had a variance earlier today on, right? So if the water's too close, you have to have the boots on the connections and that kind of thing. So it's important not only for whether the tank is going to pop out of the ground, but for other reasons. So, and then I would want to be able to understand what the calculations were, because again, looking in these boxes, you know, again, I haven't found a key to what the layout of the different boxes are. So it's hard for us to just follow and review with the calculations of I guess that's what it is. We're stymied with review.
And that is
So-
correct. And each depot gets its own adjustment. So the depot SLTP2, a Frimpton method would be applied to that depot. It's not that you get a groundwater adjustment for the entire location, which is a very large piece of property. So that's why I say if for some reason this depot was not deep enough and needs to be dug deeper to determine groundwater at the tank locations, that's possible. But this depot, I think it's SLTP2, would need to have its own separate adjustment that would be done by the Frimpton method.
Mark, we can discuss that. So I think it's like a little so the depths for each of the test pit, as long as you are measuring from the same day and using the same reference, the correction for that time for that area is the same. It doesn't make difference. So, but we can go that. If you look in our report originally, we submitted for the leaching field area for all the place. That test pit was start the same day. So when we were there,
you can apply, obviously your monitor well that you're using, USGS well, will have the same data that you used on the other depots. The only problem is this depot might not be deep enough, and your adjustment could be a lot higher in this test hole. So that's why I'm saying and giving the benefit of the doubt is to go back out there and dig this deep hole deeper, so that if it is going to be dry at deeper depths, because you have to assume groundwater at the base of the deep hole if you don't see any groundwater. So that's how the Frimpton method would be applied, basing groundwater at the deepest depth of whatever hole you're using to set an adjustment to. So I'm only suggesting you dig a deeper hole for the benefit of the fact that maybe groundwater is deeper, and without digging deeper, there's no way for us to know. So we have to assume groundwater at the deepest point of that deep hole at the tanks.
Yes,
So
I agree.
Okay, so what if Dr. Sheng first wanted to run the calculations to see if using the test pits as deep as they were dug already and doing the adjustments and see how they come out? Are they problematic? Yes or no? Would that make sense? And then if you want to go out and do another deeper test hole, to do it then?
Yeah, as long as he uses this depot to set the adjustment. He has to use data from this depot at the tanks.
Yes, I agree with you on
we'll
that.
see what that comes out to, and he can use, if it was done on a certain date, then you go to the USGS well and look up the data for that certain date, and then you do the comparison between the USGS well and the depot. So I'd say give it a try. If it seems to be out of range, that the adjustment sends you up to a point where you think it's unreasonable, that's when I suggest to engineers dig the hole deeper. And if there's no groundwater, then you get the benefit of lowering the groundwater, assumed groundwater, as deep as the hole goes without seeing any groundwater. Unless models do show. If models show, then we're all set. But you can see this deep hole where the tanks are located is at a totally different elevation from where the deep holes were done at the soil absorption systems.
Mhm.
At the soil absorption system. There's a
Yeah.
bunch of deep holes down at the soil absorption system, but I don't think the intent of this deep hole was to determine groundwater because it was, I guess the SL now I know what it stands for, sewer line test pit 2. And these were done without observation. I don't believe I was there to see these done.
It was the same day after you left, and so we just, when we getting the machine up there, we
That's
said,
why, I
"Oh,
mean, yeah, no, it's just a matter of, we do need to know the groundwater at these tank locations for two reasons. One is definitely, as you said, buoyancy, but the other one is to make sure the groundwater doesn't get up close to where the pipes go in, because if it does, you have to have groundwater 12 inches or lower from where the entrance pipes come into the tanks per Title
I
V.
understand. No, I do. But if you see that right now, this test pit is 9 feet, so there's some fill here. As I said, not arguing for the argument. We will do the calculation
Okay.
and just to either we extrapolation, do whatever we need. But I think this is exactly in this area. I mean, of all the tanks, is the most accurate one. But if we so the 9 feet is not that shallow pit. It's a good depth to.
Yeah, no, I can
the
see
one-
the 9 feet. The other thing, Deisheng, is this hole would be fine. You don't even have to do a groundwater profile because you've got a deep hole right
Right.
in the area that I didn't observe it, but I don't know if that's going to be an issue, but let's start with the data and see what it shows.
Right, yeah, if it works, and so, I mean, so we, if that works, if you need a confirmation, we can do the confirmation. I have no problem with that,
Okay.
because yeah, but first, I would like to see if it works, adding the correction to it, so.
All right, and Mark, are test pits used for this kind of evaluation that you haven't observed? I don't remember you, I don't know, is that a common occurrence that?
Well, we just saw another plan on the past one we just saw on Hunting Lane, and they had to extrapolate groundwater because they didn't do a test hole where the tanks were. So that can be done too. If you got a test hole, say on one side of the tanks and on the other side, then you can extrapolate between those two test holes with, appropriate adjustments and so forth. So, but in this case, even though it wasn't observed, the engineer could indicate what was found and set an adjustment. And it would be up to the board to see if you want me to go out and observe it. Was there a monitor pipe put into this deep hole at all?
This one, no, this one we didn't do it because at the time, it's when we were doing it, it was just say, well, around the way, we're going to hit the ledge. After we dig it, we didn't hit the ledge, and then we just be good at it. So it's dry and 9 feet dry. So it's just at the time when we did it, we didn't get in time to, but there's the extrapolation. If we are going to use the lower one, the groundwater is going to be lower because I don't feel, to be honest, if I'm here without this test bit, I will a little bit hesitate because it's a little bit far and just not. It's to me, if I'm designing it, I'm definitely not going to extrapolate those data because those data coming here is much lower. But we have a test bit right here, even though it's not really. So just like I did so many stormwater test bit, it's not witnessed. But as the engineer, as my ethic and my license and my liability, I have no point to say this depth is not 9 feet. It's in my notes for. So that's just what I can tell you. I'm not trying to say that's a witnessed. We have done 39 test bit in addition to the 8 witnessed test bit. So it's all there. So it's all listed in the comprehensive plan there. So some we hit ledge, we say we hit ledge. So just like in actually there's one going up actually just to this stormwater, it's 10 feet deep. So that's not witnessed, but we have a 10 foot of depth hit a ledge. So we didn't hit water. So that's the interesting part for the overall hydrogeology, because we have this swale going down. The water at the bottom of it is almost like a wetland. So there's like a dry valley, coming in follow this area all the way into this open area of the valley with the deep soils. It's just as I was trying to discuss with Mark in the field, is really a lot of geology homework before we coming into here to did our work. So it's just understanding of the geology is already a significant step before we even took soil testing, because other places you have a ledge show up like in on the northeast, it's all crop. There's no question. The ledge is probably a couple of feet, and some is just totally ledge. But it looks like we had a really tectonic movement in this area.
Shane,
Okay, yeah, I think that we've heard some of that at other meetings, and we need to zoom in before it gets too late. We're all
Sure. No,
exhausted.
let's move on to what are the questions.
Yeah, so Mark, pick another topic and we'll see.
Yeah,
if
the
we
next
can-
one was there's two areas we agreed to disagree, and that is in respect to what I logged in the field and what Deisheng logged, and it was in respect to the soil testing showing in my logbooks sandy loam and loomy sand, and in his logbooks just loomy sand. I don't know what we do on that. We can agree to disagree in the future. I think what we need to do is compare our logbooks to make sure that we indeed have no discrepancies between his data and my data. But that's all I can really say on that is agree to disagree.
Right, I guess, of course, you're our agent and representing the town, as you've done at so many other sites, and I don't really recall, I know that you've had discussions with other people about how you're interpreting what's out there, but I don't remember getting to a design plan point where there's still been a disagreement. I don't
Yeah.
recall happening before, so.
I don't have any past practices, including working with Deisheng, but he has his logbook showing, you'll see the LS stands for Loomy Sand. I have some of my depots, which I forwarded my test book information. I took pictures of it and sent it to Deisheng, and unfortunately we never got a chance to sit down to review it, but some of mine show sandy loam to loomy sand. Again, I just don't know where we go with that. It's
Right, because we've had this kind of disagreement before, so that means that you and the myriad of other soil evaluators out in the field have arrived at some sort of consensus in the past. So I'm a little mystified at the moment as to what to do about that.
If I may, to give my maybe my explanation. So I do realize sometimes we in the field when we were doing our soil logs, maybe I thinking it's a loamy sand, and then Mark maybe thinking it's loamy sand to sandy loam kind of thing. So obviously it was not really. Normally, to me, I'm not a very arguable person. I feel that in my experience, the perk rate will provide a little bit better confirmation on that. Just like in here, we did 5 perk testing. The perk rate ranges 2-3 minutes per inch, 2-4 minutes per inch, and then only one is 5 minutes per inch. It's very consistent, and the dose rate, in my experience, is really will go to sandy loam. So that's why I understand. So what do we wrote down differently? That's why we agreed to go there to take soil sample. So I know you put in, Daryl, you put in your report. I will explain a little bit on that. So the soil testing, soil samples is all taken from 5 feet to 6 feet depth. It's not any top. If any top soils in our soil log, you look at it, it's all sandy loam. So in a way, the top soils from the bright color soils, there's none of them is loamy sand. And there's no motivation for me to took in that color of soils. But I think the color in the photo is a little misleading because, and I took it out. There was a sun just shine on. I actually like to probably to show you. You can see the sun. So the soils here, and like you say, that's so dramatic. But let me show you my photo. That's what I took when I put the soil in the bucket. If you're looking on the leaves, so the one in the shade and the color in the sun is just day and night. I just don't want you using just that because I took a sample show in the sun to Mark, and he happened to took that photo, and that photo representing the top. So that photo, you see the soils here in the bucket in the shade. That's
Okay,
not orange.
yeah, I do get that. So,
Yeah, if you're looking on the trees, that's black, almost bark, it looks like orange. I don't want you kind of say, if you need it, I will take a notes, photo of my notes. Each of the sample we took is from 5 feet to 6 feet. Why I took in that depth is because under the town, it requires 5-foot groundwater and permeable soils. Under the DEP is only 4 feet. We added a 1 foot of a safety buffer, so we get additional foot down for, to take the sample. But as suppose my photo and Mark's photo is show we all get into the sea layer of soils. There's no dispute. If we took the soils in the B soils, every single of our test pit, we show that's a sandy loam, was not loamy sand. And this soils was tested out like a fine medium sand. So it's just, it just doesn't, add together from what you are concerned. So I'm pretty confident with the groundwater depths we saw all here for so long. And the groundwater is all like 10 feet deep or more, and close to only a foot or two above the wetlands. If that soil is so slow, and as we were thinking, it's a slow permeable soils, you would see the water coming up like a wetland because all the watershed, there's a big watershed shedding water to this valley. So you would see that valley is wetlands. So not only this, in the front too, we all know in the front, we're digging 22, the test pit always dry. It's not like in something we are mediocre soils. If the soil is not consistent, and I would have a much agreement with you to concern about it. So, but we did the soil sample, not just we did this too. We did another 4 soil samples from all the detention area. So only one coming out close to sandy loam, that's in the upper, hill area. But the test pit on the southeast side of the detention pond, there's 2 is coming out medium sand. The other one coming out of like loamy sand. So it's not like we only did 2. So we submitted all the report to you from our report, and we showed all the lab testing, and not only just our field notes. This loamy sand was just so close to the sandy loam. That's in the stormwater detention basin area, and we changed that for our stormwater design. So for our septic systems, 1 medium sand, one is loamy sand. So
okay,
that's why
I'd like to go back to Mark. So Mark, when you were out and the samples were taken for the sieve analysis, how deep were those taken?
They appeared to be about 5 feet. They had dug them out before I got there. But back to the perk test, just if I can just quickly note.
Yeah.
In Title V, you have different classes of soil, Class 1, Class 2. Class 1 is your loamy sand or your sands. Class 2 is a sandy loam. They both can have perk rates of 5 or less. So the perk rate really doesn't state it. It's more the soil structure, how it's set up, when we evaluate it, the compaction. So that's why I classified it, and I thought we both classified it as a loamy sand to sandy loam, as my notes show. But again, I just never had this happen before, but I don't know where we go with it. But it would, if by going to a Class 2, it would change the perk rate. The perk rate loading design rate would go from 0.74 to to 0.6. So there's a small reduction there in the loading rate, so a larger system. And again, it's just
And
want them
this,
to
to that other
understand. It works.
taking the more conservative if there's a mixture, is that?
Yeah, you would normally take the more conservative approach and use, we had this on Greenwood Street too, where all of a sudden our data was not the same. So, but I know Deschang just agreed to go with the Lumi sandy loam and use the class 2 soil, which would change the loading rate and make it for a bigger system in some cases. And
Okay.
If I do,
on
if
to
I
another
may,
page.
just for that, why I didn't agree with it, Mark. So we did a soil sample here. When you have a soil sample, in my view, I talked to DEP. This is just the would be the very scientific way to set our record discrepancy in our notes, because this is the only scientific way. So by hand feeling, we either can go wrong. So I'm not saying me or you. So because when you're getting that close, it could be sandy loam or loamy sand. But when we took in 2 soil samples, it showed loamy sand and the median, fine median sand. So to take in the conservative one is loamy sand. So I just feel I don't have any base to have to twist to go to the loamy sand to make it larger and economic one. And second, so for the Greenwood or any other places, it's all conventional system without any treatment. So this one, I read some of your comments. This is not just like a minimum treatment. So this treatment is for TSS, which is clogging the soils, and the BOD is meeting the same like a terrestrial treatment. Terrestrial treatment is 30-30-10, 30 TSS, 30 BOD, and 10 nitrogen. So for our case, we treated the wastewater to 30 TSS, which is from a couple hundred down compared with the conventional, and then treated BOD to 30, also, from a couple hundred down. So to nitrogen level to 19, which is just, a little bit, of course, higher than the 10, but it's way down from 35. So for a conventional system. So with all that cleaner water and with our soil testing, if you're looking, go to the Title V, I really feel just by looking at it, by hand feeling, that discrepancy here with the sieve analysis into the depths we are required, I mean, we should be honest. It's very clean and clear settlement on this issue.
So I think we get the point. So I think we should move on to another point, and we'll have to.
That's fine.
Think about it.
And I do agree with Deschang. No, the soil samples he took, they were in the upper layers, and I actually evaluated it as and that was definitely a loamy sand, but you get into deeper, we were digging 20-foot holes almost there. So as you change soil, your soils change as they get more compacted at the lower levels. But the next one was related to the perk test. Deschang wrote that pretty much I can figure it out on my own. And he is correct. I can look at the elevations of the deep holes and the perk information and determine the elevation. It was more, most people will put the elevations on the perk test, but I don't have a problem with that, Deschang. If you don't want to do that, I can easily do that by just extrapolating from the information provided. The next one was refusal. Now, in 2 of my deep holes, I showed refusal. And again, it is, I guess I have to agree to disagree that I showed refusal. And I know, Deschang, you wrote that it could have been boulders, maybe. So if so, so be it. I don't think it's going to change much because it was a depth of 14 feet. You had 4 feet of soil because we're dealing with Title V here. So I don't think that one is critical. But again, from this point on, when we're out in the field, we should look at each other's notes before we leave, just to make sure we're consistent with data intake. The next one was related to the groundwater adjustment. We pretty much talked about this before too, that I need to see that data. I need to see what USGS well you're using, what what deep hole you're determining your groundwater adjustment for. So if you could provide the Frimpton method, and it should be noted right on the plan for the groundwater adjustments noted on deep observation holes 55-2 and 55-11. That can be like a little separate box on the plan that just shows the Frimpton method. But you can submit that to me ahead of time before you change the plot plan, and I can look at it just to make sure the Frimpton method's being used appropriately, as well as the correct United States Geological Survey well, the comparison well, I'll call it. So that's why I did ask for that, and I would need to see that. So again, 55-2 and 55-11, we should see some data. I did not see the actual Frimpton method or the well that you were using as your comparison well.
And just find useful to have a copy of another example, just so you know what is typically received.
Yeah, I mean, let me clarify. One is, so I don't know, Mark, if it just, I was in my response, maybe you haven't get time to
well, you noted
read
no
that.
water was observed. Yeah, go. I'm sorry. I'll let you go. I'm sorry.
Right, the 55-2 is in the front, was not even in the back of this field. So the 55-11, we already provided in the earlier soil report. The soil report, before we did this big system, they have been compiled and it's all analyzed with the Frimpton method and submitted, agreed on. So that's what we based on that data for this design. So I can be digging that out. But
You can overlay that right on the septic plan. That's fine. Feel free to
Yeah.
overlay that information. And
Yes,
I'll go
yes.
back and look at that, because this is one thing the board has always required, is that if you have data that needs to be available on the septic plot plan, it should be on it, not on a separate document. So that's why we do require that if you did a Frimpton method, it should be on the septic plot plan. So if there was another document, if it got lost, at least it's on the plan, it gets the stamp of approval. So that's why.
Yeah, no, we can transfer to it.
That's an
The
easy one.
report was earlier submitted to when
Yep.
we were doing that 5 or 4 house lot. If you remember, at that time it's already analyzed and submitted. So we were not changing anything on that. So
No problem. And the next one was the depth. Deisheng, I think it's your plot plan that threw me off. Sheet 5 of 11 shows the elevation of 220, and it's on a larger plot, but it also shows 220 in another section. So you just need to, and that's where, if we had been able to sit down, it would have been so much easier. But sheet 5 of 11, first of all, as it relates to the depth of the Caltech chambers, you got the correct depth over those. I inadvertently took the bottom versus the 2.5 feet of Caltech height, as well as the pipe itself. But as it relates to the tank area, it's just a matter of changing the plot plan on sheet 5 of 11. What I would suggest is that sheet 5 of 11? No, there's the Caltex. Which sheet's that? I think 5 of 11 has your plots shown on it. Might be one more down, or it might be more to the side. I can't see the sheet you're on, Deisheng, but
that's why I think this.
sheet 5 of 11, it's a plot of the soil absorption area. And on that,
This is 8.
yeah, no, I might have been looking at the old plan, but you'll see the contours lead into the elevation of 220. So you got to be on the plan that shows you're moving it so fast, Deisheng, I can't see what sheet you're on.
Oh, you want the contours, right? This is
Yeah, the plan that shows not over the tanks, but the actual plot plan of the tanks. You have 2 of them, one side by side. There it is, I think. If you no, that's not it, because you don't show the tanks there. But you're moving so fast, and I can't see what sheet you're on. I think this is it, Deisheng. You're on it. If you can look at that, and again, take a look at the lower elevation, and it shows 220, and I think it really should be, in my view, after that, to the bottom line right there. Yeah, go around to the side and go out to the other side.
that's existing, this is 218.
Yeah, well, it doesn't show it, it shows a 220 near it. I think it was your highlight was
20.
your lower, the lower depth in the darkness. Those need to be labeled 219, 218, and that'll solve the problem. Because when I
218, see,
followed,
this,
yeah,
this is 219, this is 218, and this is
yeah, see, the
220.
218 didn't show up, and I
Right.
saw the 220 there. So easy correction. Just show the depths, show the elevations of each line you show there. So you got 222, 221, 220, but then you
Right.
have nothing thereafter. So I followed those lines across and found one connecting to 220. So just have to clean that up a little bit. That's all. That's an easy one. That's not the end of the world.
Yeah,
and
we
that's what
compiled
threw
a
me.
table, in response
Yeah,
to
I
show
saw the
exactly.
table. That table did a
Right.
nice job on that, showing that's what I wanted to see too, is the grade, the top grade. So you've done that. So that was an easy correction, and I thank you for that. And just showing that the 220, the 218, and the 219 would be good.
Yeah, that's we can add
Actually,
that on.
you can even put a proposed spot grade over the tanks if you want, And you see how you show your spot grades of 217, 3 and all that. You can show spot grades over the tanks, and that'll even be clearer for whoever's installing this to see it. But that was an easy correction. Again, if we were able to sit down earlier, a lot of this could have been resolved prior. But I thank you for your time and attention, and Daryl, thank you as well. I don't know if you need anything else from me.
No, I think one of my remaining questions is, how did you determine flow direction of the groundwater?
It's a good question. Let me bring up.
And if you could, like, exactly where we find that. I've been looking and I just have not found something that was clear to me.
Well, we, even though surface topography is not exactly 100% as groundwater flow, but this 90% of the general groundwater flow follows surface topography, because you get to recharge the water, wherever lower the groundwater will be lower. So the ground is higher, the groundwater is, unless there's something a little bit different. I do have a little bit different situation here. We know, Mark can tell you, when we were here in the front digging here, you were thinking that the groundwater is deeper. After we digging down, we found the groundwater actually, because the groundwater in the west and the northwest is where the surface water flow. So some of those test pits, we're digging down 20, 22 feet is bone dry, okay? So the water technically, if you look in a bigger picture, they're coming down in the middle and coming around it. So this now probably have some places have a ledge, but lots of them is like just pile of very sandy soils around this out. So we took in all our soil data. If we hit ledge, we didn't get the water, so we were assuming the bottom of the hole is the water. So we
Okay, yeah, I understand that. I guess let me back up maybe and explain it a different way. So when I've had to determine groundwater flow direction, I've used 3 points. And you look if you can encounter water. So you do have to find places where you can reach the groundwater and learn what's there. So I was usually installing wells, though, to do that. So they go deeper than just a test pit. And then using those 3 points, you compare their relative heights of the groundwater in the ground, because in the absence of any subsurface information, sure, maybe looking at the terrain is your best guess. That's kind of a standard. But if you can get the 3 points, so you had 2 points, you found water in 2 test pits, but how did you from there get to flow direction?
Well, we have 2 points at that, and so we know the groundwater is not flowing this way. We are assuming based on the conservative way, whatever we hit at the bottom. So, and even though we didn't hit the water, so we assuming that's what the water is, and that's what we did our groundwater assumption and the correction, because we can't. It's so deep. So. And so we know the wetland is there, but we have water up here. It's always be there. It's much higher than there, and the watershed is. I will share you with you all this watershed coming from the conservation land is all shedding water to this way, and we did find the water here. So this water is higher, all shedding water there. Even though we don't have one well in here, but if you look in here and look in the ledge on the top. The water is flowing that way. It's just a no. So based on the most conservative assumption, the water is flowing that direction. That's from that and from the topo. I don't know if you hit the ledge. If the ledge doesn't have water, I don't know if that can help, especially on top of a hill. You not always get the water in that monitoring well hit the ledge. So Mark knows we dig in quite a few wells, not just here, other places. When we go back, it's dry. Even during the highest groundwater season, we go there, it's still dry. So then if you do, then we do have a water well on top of this house, right? That's a drilled one. So there's a 17 feet down, and that's to the ledge, and the water is below that. Is below that 17 feet of unconsolidated soils. So even with that water, it's still going that way. So it's and we have a monitor, the drilled well at the new house 53. So and that's roughly, let's see.
So did you, I was looking in appendices to see if I could find, since you're using information about wells that have been drilled elsewhere. Do you have the boring logs for those?
Yes, so we provided into the sub boring logs. I believe I attached to it. So the response to Mark's February 2nd comment letter, we have a supplement and we have a nitrogen calculation attached to that response. Let me see if I can.
And you have the actual boring logs from that were submitted when those wells were done?
Yeah, I believe so. I actually got it from Alan just before that. Let me double check if I saw that attached to it, but if it's not, I can send it over to you. May or may not. I may not be scanned into it, but it's again, I have it. I will scan it.
Okay, that would be great, because I've been looking and I could be looking in the wrong place, but I haven't been able to find that. So that would, because I know you've mentioned it at a few
it's
meetings,
here. Yeah,
so I looked for it.
No, yeah, you see, it is here. I should have attached to it. Look at this. So this is for 53 Farm Road. So you can see that they.
Oh, right, 53. But didn't you do also 53 is a new one?
Yes, and then 49, 55, they just have a 17 feet of to the ledge, but the water is way down. They didn't really indicate in the water, and I know for sure from I was there, the water is definitely below 17 feet on the top of the hill because that well is literally on top of the hill, and they drilled depths of 520. If they hit water shallow, they're not going down for 520 feet, because most people will stop at 200 or 300 feet. So they didn't
okay, but so Mark, my understanding is that it looks to me that this was before the more formal well boring logs were required with more information, which would be the depth at which overburdened groundwater was encountered. And that looks like it really just looked for depth to ledge and then depth of the well. And I forget what else, but it doesn't have as much information as we'd have now. So it doesn't tell anything about the overburdened groundwater, which is what you'd be looking at to look at what the flow direction is. So I guess that's
correct,
kind of
Erin.
like not a very helpful data point because it's incomplete, right? They just weren't required to record that in the past. Okay, so Mark, are you familiar with then where that attachment on which file?
I am
missed.
not, I am not, Daryl. I apologize.
Okay, do you know which, you were saying it was attached to some?
To the response letter, to Mark's, first, deficiency comments, which is dated, February 2nd. And I think, in the original
Oh,
one.
there it is. Okay.
Yeah.
2/2/24, okay.
Yeah, the date of mine is February 2nd. Sorry, the letter, let's see.
Okay, so it's attached to that one. Great, I will look for that.
Right.
Okay.
And
that has those two.
yeah, I have the two. I think I probably by mistake, I just look at this file. I think I updated later on. So one of the well, I supposed to attach 49th geolog to it. I had been to attach 55 twice, but one should be 49. And for 49, they have 25-foot overburden. So you can see that for the land pitching more toward the wetlands, the aquifer depth is a little bit deeper. But for 53 and 55, even on top of the hill, I say I don't want to beat the dead horse, but it's very important to know. So that hill is not like in that on this side of it. It's not totally like the back, even though it looks like a hill. But from what our exploration, the septic system for 55 is almost on the middle slope. So that have more than 10 feet of soils too. For the testing, I'm sure they didn't get into the bottom of it. But for the geolog, even though they didn't show the groundwater, but the geolog shows you have a 17 feet of overburden on the ledge, even at a higher elevation of their septic system. So those are just a very good information to understand overall the site condition. I'm not saying I'm not trying to use that just for my benefit argument, but it's a fact you cannot ignore. And then of course, in addition, we did all the soil test pit on both sides of the hill, which also confirm very deep soils, so 18 to 25 feet. So.
Okay. Does anyone else have any questions now? It's getting quite late and we still have a number of things that we have to take care of. So.
Don't mind that one thing. I know you questioned that it's about the aquifer depths and the hydraulic conductivity. So I don't know if you have the time I can try as quick as I can to address your concern, but it's not in Mark's report. Is more your letter, the Board of Health letter to the ZBA. I will provide a written response item by item to address it. So including that photo I just showed you to be clarifying the sampling depths and the color of the soils. But for the aquifer depths, as I just explained it, so if you're looking overall right now, you already got my the leaching field we are putting in is in the back of the hill, and so we have a 3 geo water well, and the depths of Farm Road was almost at the same terrain elevation around of the same geologic formation of that valley and the hill around.
Could you point on a map for me so I know where, because it's a big site. I don't know where you're talking about right now.
Okay, yeah, let's do this. Okay, so we have a well. If you follow this elevation.
This is the new one that just went in. Yeah,
this is the new one. If you follow this elevation, it's almost exactly go through our leaching field, okay? The geological formation. In the geology scale, this is considered very close well. And you don't have to trust my word. You can check in with the peer reviewer later on when you have a chance. So from the people did the geological studies, they know what the magnitude. And the whole thing going into here, this is the well, so that's not too far either. So this is 49 farm road, so which have 25 feet of overburden soils. So because by looking of the wetlands and separation, so we know this geology formation and it's almost the same thing. So they all piled up in consistent soil conditions. So we use this well to, as I explained, it's pretty conservative using the 14.5 feet saturated aquifer depth is from this well we are applying to here. And that's one. And second, when you consider for groundwater mountain analysis, you know groundwater goes downhill. So even though the model most people use, even including mud flow, they have to have a data. But for the way as an engineer, we are not a professor in the university to, when you design a building, you say, oh, what is the bridge's bearing capacity? You are not going to design a building bearing capacity based on, like, say, 10,000 pounds. If you have a 10,100, the bridge is going to collapse. That's not acceptable from engineering practice. So as I have been worked in the university in academic fields, we will pin down for the, just like a groundwater flow, whatever. But if you look in all the wells we corrected and we know the big area in that area, so from you have been to glacial, site, the soils tend to get there much deeper. And so that's where the groundwater flows. And what we use here is conservative for the following reason. One is the model we use, our DEP recommended use the Hand-Tush method, is assuming you have aquifer infinitively flat and infinitively the same depths of aquifer depths and with the same uniform hydraulic conductivity or permeability. So, and why that is conservative? Because if you do a perk test, the water go vertically mostly, and then you have sun go on the side. I did a quick estimate. It's about 1/3 it will go horizontally, and then there will be 2/3 go horizontally, 1/3 actually go vertically. But as any hydrogeologist or textbook will tell you, the permeability, hydraulic conductivity, it's not uniform. So they have, because the water used to be travel glaciers relatively horizontal direction. So when they deposit soils layer by layer, the horizontal hydraulic conductivity usually is significantly higher. How much? Definitely 5 to 10 and even more higher, right? So the horizontal hydraulic conductivity I shared with you, I used it, is I get a book I can send to you, and I extracted that, I brought it and shared it with Mark and Peter during the peer review working meeting. So based on a silty sand condition, this average value is at about 28 feet per day. And the ones I checked it back, so even though, yes, DEP said perk rate is not exactly equivalent to hydraulic conductivity, but as a scientist, I have done, I wrote a peer review in the journal paper, is specifically studied the perk rate correlating with hydraulic conductivity. So they are very closely correlated. As I said, the perk rate is probably about 70% horizontal hydraulic conductivity. It's the same, but I'm not trying to say you just use it. You have to use in many more collateral data to looking into it. Like I showed all those evidence. And then at our meeting with the peer reviewer, he said, okay, yeah, this number is it's reasonable. And so when he say reasonable, it's because it's his experience. And he was doing these things for over, few decades. And he said, but I'd like you to take a soil sample. And then, so since we need to do it and do a sieve analysis and do an analysis to see what shows up. So again, so when you do a sieve analysis and when there's like about 20 methods using grain size to estimate the hydraulic conductivity. And you can go into it, and I'm sure some of the neighbors can bring it up. So they will be all over the place. So I look at the paper the neighbor shared to me, even just the standard deviation, it can be over 20 feet per day, all right? Not mentioning the average number. So then the question is what we use, or as a design engineer, I have to ask myself, did I use relatively conservative number for my design in all aspects, for my liability for anything? If the system failed because of I didn't do the correction design, I'm holding reliable. I will be sued for my, for any failure. But I say, I don't want that. Okay, I have designed septic systems up to 80,000 gallons per day, and I monitored 115,000 gallons per day in Hingham. That's already 25 years ago. We continuously monitored for 5 years. That source was not even close as good as here. We monitored the 5 after the system was operating. We cannot even identify identifiable background noise of the groundwater mountain. So what that means?
I have to interrupt you because it's getting very late and we still have a great deal of work to do. So I do appreciate all the information you've shared with us and highlighted for us and helped us zoom in on what was being done. And I guess we'll just have to continue discussion another time because again, we really need to get to our other duties as well. But thank you very much for the discussion tonight. This was helpful. And yes, and I assume you and Mark will be communicating somehow.
I think the good thing is we
about the few things that we've identified this evening. So, and do any other board members have any other questions for the moment? We can reserve the right to, identify other things.
I think we should move on, Daryl.
Yes, I am too. Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much. And we'll try to put some additional things in writing if we come up with them. And but again, this has been helpful. So thank you very much. Okay. So I just need to stop sharing your screen and then great.
Brian Moore has a comment if it's quick.
Oh, great. Sure. Brian.
It's quick.
Hi, good evening. Brian Moore. I live at 49 Farm Road. I have the luxury of living next door to the proposed development. And I also have the luxury of also being a hydrogeologist, a geologist working in this field for 30 years. I just want to provide a very, very brief overview, some quick comments on the design as it's presented. When you look at those plans, Deshang is right. Hydraulic conductivity does vary over time and does vary over space across the site. But, this really speaks to the efficacy of the plans, because what I heard tonight was that if there were actually 32 some odd test pits or 40 test pits taken, it seems like almost 10% of those test pits, there was a discrepancy between what the town agent and what Deshang reported for materials in the ground. It seems like an opportunity was given to allow them to collect a soil sample for grain size analysis as an alternative means to come up with some perk rates or K values. But my understanding is that the town doesn't actually collect that. It's the engineer who collects that sample and has that analyzed. And the description about groundwater flow is completely missing the fact that there are 3 giant stormwater detention basins which are going to significantly influence groundwater flow. The largest of those basins is located due north of the combined septic system, which is going to push all of that material directly in the direction of my house and my well. And DeShang talks about 17 feet of overburden over here and 25 feet on my land and how amazing it is to perk. For our little tiny 3-bedroom house, which was in the frame of their plans, mind you, meaning on their plan, just not planned because it's on our land, we spent $80,000 importing material to put in a 3-bedroom septic, and we ran out of money. And you're telling me that they're going to be able to put 32 homes septics into less than 1 acre of space on the other side of that wall that's right outside my window? Doesn't fly. It's insane. And I really, really hope that when you look at this, you'll look at our letters to ZBA, the Board of Health, to Conservation Commission. You'll look at the time and the care that we put into discussing the misrepresentation of site conditions using a steady state model, that the nitrogen loading, none of their comments on our expert's work say that his work is wrong. They simply obfuscate the issue and talk about other issues. And boy, isn't it great they're putting a bunch of nitrogen into wetlands because it's really going to make them grow. It's just smoke and mirrors. It's not working for us. None of our comments have been addressed from the various letters that we've sent over to ZBA. And we're still very concerned about our groundwater and the conditions of the wetlands at the property line. Thank you very much.
Okay, any other comments? I guess I'll just say we still have questions and concerns on this, and we still are relying very heavily on the peer reviewer to represent the town, because we do not do mounding analyses or nitrogen loading analyses. I think we've really only seen that maybe a couple of times in town, at least while I've been on the board. So yes, there are more things to be resolved. So we're just trying to clear up some of the basics that we've been wrestling with to this point.
We still
All
haven't
right.
them either, right, Joe? I mean, as of afternoon, I have not seen a report back.
Right.
Just in case anyone else is not checking every hour.
Yes, there's a ways to go. Yeah. And we appreciate all the various input that we're getting. Okay.
I just, I don't know if I'm not trying to
No,
argue. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if we really, it's late, I'm fading and we just
I will put it in writing.
have to do. So we'll have another meeting, which is part of the discussion. All right, so for Washington Street homes for the moment, take a look at the materials that have come in. I don't think we can even really start too much on that tonight unless Julie or Diana or Mark, you have anything that you feel we should at least?
I do not. I have not had a chance to start the review, but I'm hoping to do it in the next 10 days.
Okay.
I don't have anything right now, Daryl.
Okay. All right. So let's do some of the easier things and then we'll wrap up with.
Darryl, if I can, no, I should have noted in this discussion, both for Washington Street homes and for Farm Road homes, and I'll make it quick. I am
Mhm.
still waiting on DEP to indicate that the Star 13.5 septic system is approved for these type of septic systems under provisional use. And I'm still waiting on DEP.
Okay, and just for anyone listening, what DEP has approved are the STAR systems, and there are a variety of codes that go with them, such as the STAR 4.5. So what's being proposed for Farm Road, and I can't remember if Washington was the same, but very similar, is that multiple 4.5 units be used. The DEP has indicated that they have, and they're called the engineered systems, right? So they're putting together these units. They haven't done that, finished a review of that and given their approval for that yet. So that's outstanding. And then we posed some other technical questions to DEP. So we're waiting to hear. Okay. All right, so we did 33 North Main. So let's do some food establishment permits. So I believe, Ellen, I spoke briefly with Tom and he indicated that he recommends approval of the 1, 2, what is it, 3? Of the 3 permits before us.
Yes, that's correct. He has sent me emails recommending approval for these 3. They're all renewals essentially. Even the temporary one day, they come back every year, so.
Yeah, I thought I recognized them, so, all right. So, do we have a motion to grant a variance to One Bite Sweet LLC for food establishment permit renewal for 2024, subject to a sodium posting?
So moved.
Seconded.
Any further discussion? Hearing none.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Diana Hook, aye.
Daryl Beardsley, aye. Do we have a motion to grant a 1-day temporary food establishment permit for the Natick Catholic Community event at Sweet Meadow Farm?
So moved.
Seconded.
Any further discussion? Hearing none.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Diana Hook, aye.
Daryl Beardsley, aye. Do we have a motion to approve a food establishment permit renewal for 2024 for St. Teresa's Church, subject to a sodium posting?
So moved.
Seconded.
Any other discussion? Hearing none.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Diana Hook, aye.
Daryl Beardsley, aye. Do we have, does anyone have comments on the minutes from February 5th, the 7th, and the 21st? I had, kind of usual little edits and.
That's all I had also.
Same here, and I submitted those to Ellen.
Okay, so Ellen, is it okay if we approve all 3 at once?
Yeah.
Or easier?
No,
That's okay?
That's fine.
Okay. So do we have a motion to approve the minutes as amended for February 5th, February 7th, and February 21st, all of 2024?
So moved.
Seconded.
Any other discussion? Hearing none.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Diana Hook, aye.
Daryl Beardsley, aye. Possible rescheduling of the March 20th meeting is because the possible final hearing for Farm Road is scheduled for 3:20 now. And that's our meeting night, and I can't imagine not being at that. So I was wondering if we can look at another date. Maybe it's just, and we're probably going to end up conflicting with some other board or committee, which I know is the new policy is to try not to do that, but I think this is kind of a major issue. So the 19th, the 18th would be the Tuesday and the Monday, or maybe I don't think we can do it on Friday nights. I think that's kind of taboo. Implying that no one has a social schedule, which I could say I have a Friday free probably. So anyway.
I cannot do the 19th, and nor could I do earlier on the 20th. So within those options, the 18th is all I have.
Okay.
The 18th works for me. The 19th would be a bit of a challenge.
Okay, so
we don't have the rest of the board here either to assure that we have a quorum with them included. But
yeah, I'm pretty sure I could do the 18th. I'm checking.
who normally meets on Mondays?
Yeah, somebody. I forget. I don't think it's as popular a night as other nights, but actually, ZBA often meets on Monday night, just not in this case. All right, so I have that day also. I went, oh, so we have to, Ellen, since this is an administrative issue, would it be possible to do an email to the board just asking about their availability? It's not a decision making other than just scheduling. I think we
Yes.
can do that.
Yes, you can.
Okay, so how about we aim for the 18th and is 7 o'clock the usual time? Appropriate?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so we'll aim for that. We'll get input from the other board members on availability, and it looks like there are no variance hearings that need to be scheduled, Ellen, because nothing has come in
No.
that you.
No, not at this time. Actually, it works out well because what happened?
Are you there?
Yeah, yeah. Currently, you have nothing scheduled for March 20th, so rescheduling it won't be a problem.
Okay. Oh, we're probably going to keep that 20th meeting, but make it only for attending the ZBA meeting.
Right. I'm just talking about the Board of Health agenda.
Yes, yeah. But it just occurred to me we could still hold on to that, but not use the link because we'll just join the ZBA meeting.
Right.
All right. Okay. So the 18th, I'll send something out on that.
Ironically, our next meeting is on April Fool's Day. April 1st.
Oh, is it?
Yes.
Oh.
I thought it's April 3rd. Yeah, it's April 3rd.
You are correct. I don't know why I was thinking about April 1st. Sorry. It's late. Sorry, everyone.
See, this is why, okay, we gotta end soon.
Yes.
All right, we did that and we have agenda items. So we don't have anything yet, but I'm sure, frankly, we've got Farm Road and Washington Street. So I think we have more than enough.
And then the other
Oh,
business.
and
Go ahead.
noting receipt of the annual report.
That's exactly what I was gonna help you check off. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, so that gets
And
posted.
the new agenda has, I'm sorry, Daryl, the new agenda has a ZBA petitions.
Oh, thank you. Oh, my. Thank you. All right, I'll share my screen in just a moment. Okay. All right, so some of these signage. I don't think that has, we need to weigh in on that. Mark, any reason? Could they potentially put signage on top of it? I don't know if it's existing or new.
Well, this is the Med Spa, I believe.
Excuse me?
Oh, wait a minute, I'm sorry, I didn't pull it up till now. So this is 18 North Main Street. No, I'm not for sure. We don't usually get too involved with signage.
Yeah, only I think to caution them not to erect a sign where they're driving something into the ground over their septic system. But
Very good point. Very good point.
I think that's really the only, and because these are renewal, let's see, with signage. Trying to think of a blanket to say things like, if there are no changes to the operations or to the location of the sign, then we wouldn't need to see it. Does anyone know what Sherborn Commons is? Oh, 11 South Main, that's the
That's the Med Spa.
yeah, okay. Special permit. Image. So I think the first 6, as long as they obtain any other appropriate permits, does that sound reasonable to the board and Mark and Ellen?
For 33 North Main?
For any of these first ones, yeah, especially for 33, because we know that has to get new permits. And if they make any adjustments to the operations.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like there's any big flags here.
No.
Okay, and then the continuation of Washington Street Homes. And that is coming up March 12th.
Yeah.
But we're really at the very beginning of looking at that.
Yeah.
And the water is going to be done by Mass DEP. So that leaves the septic, and there's still the outstanding questions about the approval and some of the finer points about the provisional use system. So I don't think we need to comment on that. Just okay.
I think important to note, we are not posting that as a meeting. So if it happens to be there are 3 people there, we cannot discuss amongst ourselves.
Right. So
I'm not saying that I don't think we need to post it. I'm just
because it's so early in. I guess we could, yeah, at this point, we could probably make comments independently. Like if DEP sends in information, well, but maybe we'd want to. Is there any harm in just posting, Ellen? We don't call to order. We don't call to order.
Posting what?
For Tuesday, March 12th for the ZBA meeting because of the Washington Street Homes.
Well, once you post, then whoever's doing the minutes has to at least provide something to the town clerk saying,
okay,
no meeting was held because the quorum wasn't present. or something to document what happened with, after a meeting was posted.
Oh. Oh, now that this falls on us.
So, I think that there's,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think we're gonna have any information by Tuesday that
Oh, very true.
I mean, they're just, I mean, they haven't even established a peer reviewer yet, right? Like, they're just very early in this hearing. I just don't see us needing to present and discuss any information that we will magically get between now and Tuesday.
Okay.
That's just my,
Especially in light of the administrative challenge.
yes,
Okay.
thinking about that too.
All right, great. Okay, I think then we might have covered everything. Fantastic. All right. Any closing comments from anyone before we finish? Or questions?
I think I should just take a moment and just say thank you to Ellen for her 38 years of public service to our community. I think one of the best measures of your life's work is have you made a place better for having been there. And I think there is no doubt we can say that about you, Ellen. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, Ellen.
Couldn't have done it without you, and wondering how we're going to do it without you.
I will definitely miss it, as I've said over and over again. I love my job, but again, it's time to stop. And
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to doing other things.
Yeah, you've got some very cute other things out there. We understand. Cute as we try to be.
You could always do minutes while you're watching the grandchildren.
I'll
Yes,
not respond to that, Mark.
Well, I've been very fortunate to have you by my side all these 38 years. So thank you, Ellen.
Very welcome. Thank you. Thank you all.
All right. So with reluctance of closing out our last meeting with Ellen, and not going to midnight and 1 a.m. like we used to do with another project. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved, yes.
Seconded.
All right. Any further discussion? Hearing none.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Diana Hook, aye.
Daryl Beardsley, aye.
Good night, everybody.
Hey, good night.
Good night.